man, and then you'll recognize.
Yes, I know.
Another picture of Fred. Probably going to be on the website.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this week's Messed Up edition of the Weekly Roundtable. This is day 2 of the National Wrestling Association annual meeting. I think this is year 147 or something like that. That's America's oldest civil rights organization, now reborn with new leadership and new blood. And we are here to celebrate that beginning, that auspicious occasion known as Voices of the Two-Way. Hey, listen, doing him down on my far right, Rick Sharapovich, my brother-in-law, is here joining us. And I got Steve, long shot, big muscle, Cleverly. He's over here from 5150 Rifle. Not only representing the rifle team, but more importantly, you wanted to talk about something near and dear to your heart.
So, I am also with the Warrior Shield Foundation. We are a nonprofit out of Florida, comprised of veterans. What we do is we actually raise money for other veterans for charity. So every year we do an event out in Orlando called Warrior Weekend. And actually, Warrior Weekend I put on their wall. They didn't even print a new copy.
John Teagan, those of you who may not know.
So I hate to say the reason I put why do you want to do this? I wanted to establish calendar was, and then it reached into Tonto this year.
No, it was actually
it's going to be an emotional weekend for me because this year we're benefiting from the foundation that provides funding for PTSD treatment for veterans of first responders. You actually met Corporal Chad when we did our launch event in February.
Good.
So we are going to be honoring them, raising money for PTSD treatment, like I said. It's September 5th through the 6th in Orlando at the Rosen Center. The Friday night concert, it's a huge concert. So we've got Ryan Weaver, who's a 2-time Gold Star family member, country music artist from Boston. Then we've got
another one.
Sean Hogan, who's a local, I think we're Stapleton on steroids. Great country music artist out of Florida. He'll be down there playing. Natasha Owens, who is another country music artist. And if you remember, Bo Bites. Bo Bites is actually going to be playing for us for a second year in a row. Great guy. He is a solid guy. Right. So Saturday, we start the day out with a motorcycle ride. So we call it Hero Ride. So we're going to be leaving the Rosen Center and heading to Gary's training complex, where Tig and Boone will be doing a close quarters kind of a CQB class thing for the guests and then I will be doing a long range challenge to get the guys out to the 1,000.
All right, now, how can anybody else participate if they want to?
So, tickets are still available. Obviously, the more the merrier. We want you guys to come. If you go to warriorshield.org, there is a link that takes you straight to where you can sign up for tickets. They range in price. If you're going to do the whole weekend, it's $750. The gala obviously different prices. We will have silent auction items on our One Cause app where you can bid and do so on and so forth. I am doing probably the most meaningful build I've ever done in my life.
Right. When are we going to get? My microphone's there. When are we going to get to see the build?
You will not see the build unless you go to Conquer the Castle in Mingus, Texas. I will throw some teasers out there because you're going to want to see it. But it's definitely a tribute build that I am doing. Saturday Night Gala, it's massive. So we're going to have vendors all over, guests. Like I said, Tig and Boone will be in town. We have Karen Bingham. She's the mother of the Flight 93.
Right.
She's going to be in town. It's the Star-Studded Gala. It's going to be a great night. We looked at Ripley's, a lot of money.
Well, we'll do whatever we can do to help you guys promote it now. Are there any other sponsors for the event?
As a matter of fact, 5150 is one of the headlines.
5150. Not only the greatest rifle manufacturer on the face of the planet, but a steadfast and loyal partner of the veterans of this country. And
we are actually
the phone never.
Really? No, we actually took 150. We're sponsoring not only 2 RoundTable, but we're bringing some first responders and veterans in, special guests. We're sponsoring Range Day along with Black Sheep Ammo and some other guys. Dr. Tanya Glenn, who's near and dear to my heart, she is sponsoring the Flight 93 table. And then we've got a Benghazi table. Still looking for a headline sponsor and a bar sponsor.
Headline sponsor and a bar. Well, my daughter owns a bar, but I don't know if she can do with that. But yeah, listen, we're going to throw the links up in this. After you guys watch it, you can come back and look at some things and review it. But is there any place we can go for the links to find out the athletic kid?
Yes. So, like I said, if you go to warriorshield.org, there should be a link on our page for events. You can go straight there, and I will provide you the links to our OnePlus app. That's where you can be a sponsor, you can donate, you can do everything under the sun. All money is going to go to Corporate Shadow. Rick Gear Apparel is another one of our sponsors. They're going to be doing some shirts and bringing some lock and load coffee. Something that's near and dear to your heart and mine is the black coffee. Yeah, but we'll get that squared away. If you want to learn more about Corporate Shadow Foundation, go to Corporate Shadow, cplchado.org. Read Chad's story. It's heart-wrenching. He endured as a result of the PA. How objective that's.
Well, we had a couple of guys in yesterday that work with other organizations that, and it's such a damn shame that all these organizations even.
It's right. Chad lost his life because of PTSD and being ignored by his commanding officer and being forced into a second after he straight upset. Good. And the VA threatened him in Bolivia, and then ultimately left him unattended for so long. He ended up taking. It's a shame that the medication was killing him. The beauty of the friends was Tanya, I love them with everything. She's bringing better trauma-related issues of no medication. She's using practice of the EMTR, which I moved into the sensitization process, and it's changing the lives of veterans as far back as the
All right, so it's not just all coverage, but it's coming back. Anybody can use it.
Trauma is trauma, and it's never too soon, never too late.
Well, listen, I know how much you do for the veterans. I know how much you do, and everybody and how much all of these guys do. I don't think you guys ever get the level of appreciation to the volunteers and that you do.
We don't do it for the recognition and the appreciation. We do it for that.
I know, but here you're going to get recognized, and I'm going to tell you we appreciate it. It's what you're doing it. Yes, if you know the other thing this week.
Veterans first responders are number one, especially within the mental health, and that's my passion. So that's what we're continuing to do today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Cleveland, 5150. Listen, call these guys up, buy a rifle. They donate so much time and money into these things. They need your support, so they're up to support these guys who support other people who free you. So get it done today. Hey, man. Hey. Yeah, that's man. Almost stuck in the frame.
Almost there.
There we go. Samantha Supplemental, stop by and say hello. All right, Steve. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it as always. Who is typing that I keep hearing her let him make?
Me.
No, it's a trash cart right behind us.
Oh.
Yeah, go sell guns.
Oh. Go sell guns. Oh boy. Yeah, we got like 7 people standing outside all week. We get empty it today. Is the green bag on your side, Fred?
Hi, Frank. While you're in between and transitioning, I want to say hello to you and everyone. I know it started a little bit late, but we're happy to see that this is NRA coverage live from the floor. Seems you've already been actively going into the interviews. Looks like it's a busy time there. Am I right?
Yeah, we've got probably a third more of the traffic today than we did yesterday. There's a lot more people here. There's a lot of people. A lot of the times on the second day, you get your special guests, show up.
Often.
So all the people that come in that have been paid to show up, they they come in, there's sponsorships and everything else like that, and that naturally draws in a bunch more people, that are showing up because they want to, rub elbows and glad hands and everything else. So,
Of course.
naturally you get a lot more people. It's good for traffic. It's good for the NRA. It's good to get more people in here.
Always.
And thus far it's been going pretty well today.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that the audio quality, in terms of me speaking, no double voice. That's a plus. But it does sound like the mics are a little low. I don't know if that's you have to add up the gain.
There is so much ambient noise in this arena. If I bring the microphones up any louder, that's all you're going to hear.
Don't hear anything.
You don't hear anything?
No.
Well, then maybe it's just maybe the headphones. Your
headphones may be picking it up, but in broadcasting out, I hear nothing.
How's that sound to you, Rich? That's it. A little bit of the background noise. Like, you dropped everything.
I mean, the only thing I'm really picking up is the one guy directly behind you when he's talking, but that's because of the mic directional. Other than that, and that's barely in the background, so you're sounding fine.
All right. Well, this is tolerable.
Yeah.
But I know everybody's a critic. This needs work, that needs work. Hey, listen, with down 4 cables, 2 battery packs, and a camera, and Dalen is standing in the middle of the feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where this camera is.
Hey, I'm not picking. I'm not picking, man. I'm not picking. I know what it's like to be at an event.
It's just it's so freaking it's ridiculously difficult
of course.
To do this. It's one thing if you're setting up in the morning and you're going on and you have all day to do it, but we're doing it in between other shows.
Right.
Everything's got to get torn down, put back together, and simplified, and try to, get on air on time. It's not easy to do. Not easy at all.
Take a look at Peter. Peter just left a message. I think that may be it, because it does sound like it could be cameras, not the board picking up. But folks, we're doing a little bit of insight. We're trying to make sure you have the best quality experience of all the people that are going to be interviewed today with the Liberty First Foundation, my associate Frank Johnson, and several other individuals that are right there with him. We're trying to make sure it's pin perfect, but of course,
the microphone wire on that road mic.
In conventions, it is never pin perfect. I can tell you from personal experience at CPAC, at Freedom Fest, I've done them all, and I can tell you, it's never perfect. Frank's doing a fantastic job by getting on and making sure that people are being heard. So, bear with us with that one. I would love that we had enough money to do what, the major news media, NBC and all them could do. We don't. Your donations will help, though. We can get it better. Frank, I got you. And I know you're working in the background right now to improve.
I'm trying to navigate guests.
No, that's fine. That's what I was about to ask. Who are some of the guests that we might expect for the next 3 hours?
Mostly we've got a lot of different manufacturers coming in here that are going to come in and talk about some things we found interesting for the Second Amendment community. Things that we want to try and encourage the maker field. The people that, the UCF doesn't like because they like to build their own firearms and such. Well, we're trying to bring some of these guys into the fold and show the new products that are out there that, while the government keeps trying to shut people down, freedom and innovation keep opening the door. And we are going to introduce some of those products here. And they're not firearms.
No?
No,
what?
Wait a minute.
They're not firearms?
Not yet, anyway. All right, hold on a second. All right, as soon as they get here, because I'm waiting for someone to show up, and they're standing there bullshitting. There they are.
Hey, everyone's got to navigate through the crowds, and it's fantastic. Well, you were mentioning that the crowds are bigger today. I know the total is expected to be about 60 to 80,000 people overall throughout the entire annual meeting. What would you say is? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I got one camera over here that I can do as a handheld that I can just beam around a little bit and show you. This is just a little spectrum of what's going on. Now, to this side here, we've got there's Dalen and Rich. What's up, guys? And over here, the rest of Radio Row. Oh, sorry for the wobbliness. We use
That's all
every
right.
booth over there to the side as another podcast. And there's 2 aisles of us. So there's quite a bit of just from, we're in a kind of isolated position where we are, but we can still see an awful lot.
Well, they always put the media out off to the side of whatever's going on in the event, normally with these things. But I can see we have a couple of guests that are coming on, and I'm going to look forward to this. Guys, I know I'm remote, so I'll probably be off screen for most, unless I'm asking a question. I'll pop back in. We look forward to comments from the audience, of course. But with that said, Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you for the most part.
All right, you just hang out, keep your voice, keep your mic on, so you can just jump in with questions whenever you want. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna do this.
Yep.
So you can see what's going on. All right, we got Stephen Shepsall over here from the new name. All right, G80.com. Now, you guys might know them better as Defense Distributor. Well, this is how everything has been. Like I said at the top of the show, this is a rebirth of the NRA. It's a rebirth of a lot of the industry. A lot of the people we have all had to adapt and overcome from these rules, regulations, and bullshit that everybody has given to us. And these guys have overcome a lot of that for the makers community. And Cody Wilson is down on the other end. Cody Wilson, who's the NRA benefactor.
I can propose it.
Yes, you can. All right, guys. We were at the booth earlier. We shot a video in the booth, but that's not going to be on the YouTube channel until later. But this, I was so impressed with. I said, let's get you guys over here early, get you on the live stream, to show you what's going on. So, if you can hold that up and tell people what it is that we're doing.
I got no audio, Frank.
I have audio on my end.
We're not hearing it. But we are showing the web, just so they know, we are showing the website for G80.com, which are, these are next generation firearms approved by the Supreme Court, no FFL required, according to the website. And we are showing that has a G80 jig set, a G80 unfinished receiver, a G80 grip module. You can see some of the information here. So we're just showing you some of the things that are on their website at this time. And there's a complete shop and support as well. So I just want people to be able to see that. Go ahead, Frank. I'll let you get back.
Looking at that, I'm trying to figure out what the audio resolution is because we don't hear each other. You don't hear me. Can I see the phone, please? Because I got to see what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Frank. It sounds like it's coming off the cameras. I don't hear them. By the way, guys,
I have one camera going.
Okay.
And
by the way, for the guys over at G80, are you guys able to hear me? I hope so. We were just okay. Thank you for the high sign. So I know you can hear me. I know I was looking at your site. It's got some nice graphics, I got to say. Great photos. I don't know if either of you took the photos. They look fantastic. We were just showing it to everyone out there. I'm looking it over, and I'm sure Frank is going to bring this up. But you said...
All right. I think I'm back. We're all back.
Now you have the mic. And we have a...
Can you hear me? Can you hear
everybody?
All right, excellent. Okay.
And
So
now,
I used to have
now
all three of us through one camera and 3 mic sets because we usually do this. It's multiple channels all feeding.
right.
No,
in
don't worry
through
about it,
one.
man. We're happy to be
So,
on your
yeah.
show.
Oh, pleasure.
Bring
Sorry
down the
about that
volume.
audio. At least you didn't have to hear me screaming a couple of minutes ago.
That's all right. Frank, you want to bring the volume down now? You back the mic.
All right, good.
All right.
How's
That sounds fantastic.
All right.
I definitely look forward to hearing about how these are Supreme Court approved. Again, I will back out and we'll be looking at the website in a moment.
Would you like me to tell you
Yeah,
about
I
that
think-
Supreme Court approval?
I think you should go first.
Absolutely.
All right, listen. Let's basically just start from. Let's give a brief synopsis of people who don't know the situation. Give a quick description of what A80 is, because
Yes.
a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
Why they hate it, what we've done to try and fight it, and where we stand now.
To that camera?
To that camera right there.
All right, to that camera and those listening at home. The 80% market was popular long before it even had that name. Unfinished receivers and receivers you could finish at home were popular before they had terms like ghost gun, which has become all the vogue in the media. But these receivers became so popular that certain tools were developed to finish them, and certain kits were made to be sold online and through the mail. And the most popular of these kits was the Polymer 80 kit. To make a long story a little shorter, the Polymer 80 kit was a popular way to do Glock-type pistols, among other things, at home to finish what was called an unfinished frame at that time. And the industry in this 80% space would rely upon letters from the ATF, letters of determination saying, well, the sample you've submitted to us is not a firearm. Polymer 80 would have an unfinished polymer pistol frame that you could just had to do a little bit of finishing to at home with a set of fixtures, often in red, like the fixtures you see here. And yet that became so popular that there was a political backlash. So popular, I mean commercially and culturally. And then we began to see people like Polymer 80 at SHOT Show and NRA, and thousands and thousands of people began to finish these types of pistols and, of course, AR receivers at home. And this was legal because it's legal for you to make your own gun in this country. The political backlash, though, required or relied upon, let's say, the Joe Biden ATF and even people before that to develop rules saying an unfinished receiver, it's the same thing as a receiver. In fact, an unfinished gun is legally just as much a gun as the finished gun itself. And even though this sounds a little absurd, because there must be a world of things that aren't yet guns, there must be that world. Legally, we started losing in the administrative, the machinations of the ATF, and then the state laws started coming on. And so by the time we're in 2022, there's a serious federal rule here, which is saying, the ATF is saying, every type of unfinished receiver, we're going to change our rules, and we're going to say, you know what, these things are probably just as regulated as serialized guns are now. And you're going to have to ask us for permission to sell them. You're going to have to get an FFL to sell them, or you're going to have to go out of business. And so all of this culminated in a Supreme Court case called Vanderstock, which on an emergency appeal made its way to the Supreme Court last year and was decided only 1 month ago, to the detriment of Polymer 80 and companies like them. And that's the background, and I can take it forward from there unless you want me to fill in some
please. I have to be taking a refresher course on this stuff myself.
Well, yeah, it's kind of an endless saga, but if I will, I'll say the surprise outcome of this Supreme Court case, which you may have seen online and in the news, ghost guns are over, kit guns by mail are over. The media was hot to say ghost guns are over. The Supreme Court agrees. What that means is kits like what Polymer 80 was selling, which are a frame and which include a fixture and tooling and maybe even sometimes some other things like a slide, a barrel. This was too much, the Supreme Court said. You can't sell every single thing and put it in a box. You can't call it something like buy, build, shoot. You can't be cheeky with the name. Even how you market these things begins to adjust how the law sees them as either guns or not guns. And so Polymer 80 takes the large sacrifice for our industry at this point with the Supreme Court. They made something that was just too good, too easy to finish. It took not long enough to finish. The Supreme Court says it needs to take longer than an hour. You have to use unusual tools. And so all of that story and all of that decision arrives at this product that we have here today, which is in the tradition of Polymer 80 type products. But it takes longer than an hour to finish on purpose. It's made of different materials on purpose. And it's a different type of unfinished frame. It is not a frame, in fact. It's a receiver. It's a Glock type fire control unit, which is in the legal style of a receiver and not a pistol frame. So it doesn't look like a gun. If you've never seen this before, you don't even know that this is necessarily a gun part, and this is all necessary stuff by the terms that the Supreme Court has set for us in their decision, Vanderstock. And so that's the product that we're bringing to market today.
And we're going to reiterate for the people over at YouTube, we're not showing you a gun today.
Far from it.
Nothing
Far
we
from
have
it.
here
Our argument.
is a firearm.
Right.
Nothing. So don't screw with the feed, all right? Stop being a bunch of commies.
So you are looking at the G80 unfinished receiver. It is not a gun. Now, what we have to make it not a gun are 4 individual tabs, which you may have seen from a similar polymer version, and they must be removed. Now, you can't do it like with guitar wire cutters, as some of you guys may have done with the polymer versions. It's 4140 steel, so you will need to use some serious tools to remove it. We've designed it for use with our desktop CNC mill, and I don't want to get your channel struck, so I won't even say the name of it, but if you look up Defense Distributed desktop CNC mill, you will find it. And you will need an end mill or a drill press to peck drill away these tabs. Anyway, you remove them, get them flush with the rails. There's also a half moon barrel seat block right there so that your recoil spring cannot be installed until removed. And the final operation as far as material removal on the top side is this tab protruding from the rear that prevents you from installing a trigger housing mechanism. So once that's removed, you've done everything on the top. The jig, as you note, has some nice little steel bushings. I know another complaint with the polymer version was that the jigs were consumables. You could not reuse them. With this jig, it is indefinite in terms of your use. So these steel bushings will protect your tool, protect the jig, and keep them properly aligned when you're drilling your trigger pin hole and your trigger housing mechanism hole. So once this is done, you can then install of your choice Glock 19 compatible Gen 3 parts. So if you want to do factory OEM Glock parts, those will work. If you like your Apex, your Zev trigger, whatever brand is your favorite, you can drop that in there. And unlike a similar chassis system for the Glock 19 Gen 3 platform from one of the majors here, we do not use any proprietary parts. So your trigger actually feels exactly the same. A couple people have told us better than the Glock 19 Gen 3 that you're used to. So you keep that same feel, all your same training carries over to this. And then you can drop it into and I'm miming here because again, YouTube, a grip module of your choice. If you just imagine this filled with parts as a firearm, and then this drops into your grip module. And the cool thing that you guys already know where I'm going with this, it can go into a pistol grip module like a handgun or a PDW. So if you're familiar with a product like the Flux Raider, you can imagine that or something similar encapsulating this chassis with a slide of your choice, red dot, tactical light, collapsing braces, magazine caddies. You know, I'm kind of painting the picture here because we're limited on what we can show, but this becomes the heart of your system.
You have to use your imagination.
Yeah, you guys are creative.
If you're in this, you're already creative.
Right.
So you have a good sense of where you're going. This is just to explain the difference between the used to be and the now.
Right. And so in the now, what this is really designed for is guys with 3D printers to then show us what you are capable of making. Because again, our imaginations are somewhat limited. There's a ton of creative potential out there. I imagine you guys can come up with some really fun prints, post them on social media, you know, if you're so inclined, so that people can see kind of what your imagination came up with. If it's really cool, we may work with you to try and make an injection molded product. We will be selling grip modules that are injection molded for the pistol grip module and the PDW grip module. So if you're not a 3D printer, you're more of an old school mill and drill guy, we have you covered on what this goes in. But if you're a 3D printer person, this is for you.
Now, we were over at the booth earlier today, and I had the opportunity to check out the jigs, the inserts, the blank, we'll call it, and everything. And I am so ultimately blown away by the level of quality craftsmanship that's in the jig themselves. I'm not talking about the finished component, but the components that go into making your finished component. If you start out with crap, you're going to end up with crap. But these things are perfect. These things, the tolerances of machines, so absolutely pristine. When you put the blanket in, I was like, did I break this thing? And it was like, no, it's really that snug, because I was scared that I might have hurt something.
We can improve that. We can taper that pin a little more, and that can probably feel.
Oh no, but
better.
But it really.
Yeah.
Listen, breaking it apart like that, having that much resistance, I know that it's sitting in there solid.
Yeah.
I know my bits aren't going to wobble. I know I'm not going to have anything wandering off center. Everything is going to be done the way I want it to.
That's what you're looking for here. And, we're dealing with steel. So with Polymer 80, fine, you could get away with plastic fixtures, and people would still complain about those. But that's unlikely to be useful here when you're trying to clamp down a steel component.
All right. Well, I mean, literally speaking, when you're dealing with tolerances this tight, any temperature change, any ambient temperature change is going to affect how components of dissimilar metals are going to react to one another, because your heat and expansion rates are going to be different. Even at room temperature, it's microscopic as it is. That's how tight your tolerances are. That's he showed me the finished product of what one of these things do, and it is the coolest. I'm not going to do it. I think the clock is like, the Yugo of the, people say it's the Honda Accord. I'm like, no, it's the Yugo of the car. It's an ugly, ugly gun. These guys made it look sexy. The way this thing is designed, I mean, you have to see how this sits in the lower, in the grip module. It's outrageous. It makes it look so sexy. And if you choose to have it serialized, I imagine this gives you some real estate.
Yeah. So some states, I can't say I know every state law off the top of my head. I have a reference chart back in my office, but some states may require you to register your completed firearm with your state law enforcement or something like that. So you have plenty of real estate. This flat plate right here sits exposed in the grip module, so you can choose to engrave a serial number if you're worried about it being lost or stolen, but still want to keep it off the books. You can put a personally identifying number on there, something like that. And we do have friends who I also work with at G100.net. They make a serialized version. So maybe you love the modularity we are offering you here at G80.com, but your state may not allow you to build a firearm. Okay, no problem. You can still get this modularity. Go to G100.net. You will get a serialized and nitrided G100 chassis. And what we're calling this is the 120R ecosystem. And you're like, how do you come up with that number? Well, my machinist was like, well, we've created a new product. We got to figure out a way to classify it. So we're going to measure the front of the rail to the rear of the rail. And that's in millimeters, because Glock is Austrian and metric. So this is how he came up with it. I'm sorry to throw that at you, but you're looking at a 120R receiver in an 80% format. There is a 100% version from G100.net. So you can get your 120R receiver either way, whatever your state allows, whatever your preference is, and then you can have the modularity that way.
And this whole thing assembles into your grip module with 2 pins.
Correct.
Drops in, locks in, put 2 pins in, and your
bottom pin.
Throw your slide on, and you're good to go.
And one funny other feature we have is a drilled hole at the bottom. So when you go to the PDW grip module, one thing we found in testing is if you did this cross pin, it kind of creates cracks. So you guys out there that 3D print and take notes, I'd suggest not using the cross pin on a PDW grip module. Instead, utilize this hole we've offered you here. It is threaded for an M4 bolt. So you can just run that bolt up the bottom of your imaginary pistol grip from the bottom, and it gives you the security you need. You can even Loctite it if you're like, hey, this is the final form. I want to lock it in. Fine, Loctite that bolt, put your cross pin in, and that thing's not going anywhere.
This ecosystem, since that word's been used, is also, yes, we want to celebrate the design. We also want other people to celebrate and integrate the design. So there's no patents on this design. Though there's inspiration and tradition here, you can see this industry moving in an FCU direction for Glock-type pistols and other pistols. In our case, we want people to build here, and not just in a maker or a hobby way. We want people to adopt commercially the standard that's here, and so we're making sure on purpose to not have a patent or other barrier in terms of IP.
Now, I'm just going to ask you a silly question, but you have no patents on them. What prevents somebody from taking your design and patenting them themselves?
Luckily, the law doesn't make it easy for you to do that in that example. If there's prior art, or let's say we're on a podcast talking about our design and that we have a website up where we're selling our design and we prove that this design is already in use in commerce, and of course we've had versions of this design already on the internet and in commerce sometime before today, you're usually protected against that type of activity.
Because I would just be concerned. I mean, I know
Yeah.
how long you especially have been doing this.
It's a rare thing, I'll say, for someone to run to the patent office in that frame of mind, thinking they can just patent something that someone else has made. It's a rare thing.
Well, I hear people talking about trademarking certain words and stuff like that.
Yes.
They go in, they cash in on a word that's been in the vernacular for 150 years.
Right.
Like, just because you popularized or said something doesn't give you credence or ownership.
I'm on your side. Well, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, this is not a Glock handgun. It is a Glock compatible.
That's a great
Chassis.
point. Glock itself doesn't really like you to say, hey, check out our Glock type pistol. They're like, no. That's our word. We own that word. So, of course, there's all these things you have to navigate in the world of IP. But again, we don't want you to have to navigate those things. We want you to come to this, this buffet, this ecosystem, and at least enjoy as much of it as possible. Because that's how things like the AR-15 became so popular. Maybe it was on accident. Maybe it's all historically contingent. But it's because no one really owned that design, that design became so successful. And we're interested in the success of concepts like this, not just making a big bag of money.
Well, there you go. I mean, and speaking of money, give me some prices on.
Yeah, we
what we're
overlooked the
looking at.
important part, right?
Oh, yeah, Mike.
So the receiver is $99.99 per receiver. It will come with the roll pins you need to secure it to the grip module. It will come with a little coil spring because we did ditch the Gen 3 style leaf spring. And it will come with a trigger pin because this chassis is more narrow than the traditional frame, and the trigger housing mechanism pin. But other than that, your frame parts kit has everything else. So those pins are included with the spring at that $99.99 price. Your jig that you will buy once and cry once, as we like to say, is $179.99.
Guys,
And the grip modules go for $39.99 from us.
We're
guys,
injection molding some of these grip modules, but they're also printable. We'll sell high-end printable versions of these grip modules and more creative versions as they're developed. So we hope that's a fun way to buy things. But, we want to establish a premium standard for this type of gun. And we also want to be future forward. So we want to say, not only is this a better type of Glock, you can make this at home.
Well, I mean, you guys got the pretty complete package, and then when you throw in the machine that has no name,
the unnamed machine.
that was on my channel at one point. It was,
yeah.
Yes, it was there several years ago. It's no longer there.
Sorry about that.
No, it's not you.
That's how that works.
I think I'm going to reverse
We're a little
play it
radioactive.
upside down and put
funny.
something over it.
I think that's how you know you're in the right spot. I've seen most of our videos disappear now off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Most of them. And that's how you know you're doing something.
Well, when
should
you
be
catch
doing.
it, when you catching flack, you're over the
I
target.
think that's right.
And that's the way it is. I see. All right, Vass has got a question for us, and then Mike Marshall's who's joining us from up in New York. What's going on, Marshall? Long time no see.
I know. I've been busy. So, how are you guys?
Good. Marshall, jack your mic up just a touch if you could, and Vass, you got a question, so shoot.
yeah. I wanted to ask you guys that for those who are not deep into firearms or various firearm parts, would they look similar to aftermarket automobile parts? And so the question becomes, should the government be regulating firearm aftermarket parts like they do auto parts? Because it sounds like in their own decision, their own mind, we're going to create a bunch of rules that don't exist for any other comparable market device and punish people. Is that a good understanding of it?
That would be a fair description. Yeah. So you can buy on at least a handgun everything but the regulated part. So, currently we can buy slides, barrels, recoil springs, frame parts, all that can go right to your door. But there's one part that is absolutely no in a completed format.
Okay. And so you guys provide everything at one part.
We do, but I want to credit your question as being as significant as you feel it is. It is a very significant question. What the Supreme Court has allowed since Vanderstock is for the ATF to have a squishy, fuzzy definition of that one part. In fact, they say multiple things can be considered that one part. That's a problem, okay? And that didn't go away with Vanderstock, and that doesn't necessarily go away with products like this. We meet the Supreme Court's current standard because the Supreme Court's only been asked once to interpret the ATF's law. But the ATF, under a new president, let's say Gavin Newsom rolls on in here in 4 years, the ATF,
God.
I'm just
We
saying,
have to plan for worst case.
I know.
the ATF now has a standard to say, well, here's an 8-factor test, and in fact, your gun part might not feel to you like a gun part, but it feels to us like it is one, and there's no way you can know in advance if it is or not, where at least there were precedents before, industrial precedents before, where you could even invite ATF to give an opinion about your one part. Now the ATF says, actually, for 4 or 5 different reasons that we're not really going to disclose, any one of those can qualify one part or more as the thing that trips the line and makes this a firearm, including speech, by the way, including if I was to say, hey, this is the G80. Yeah, but you know what its other name is? It's the Buy, Build, Shoot Kit. The Supreme Court says, just because you named it that, this is now tipping the scales towards the legal definition of a firearm. That's
What?
Caesarism. That's Machiavellian garbage.
That is authoritarian. Just because of the name.
Yes.
Which could
the
be
definition.
that's marketing.
The definition, that's marketing. It's commercial speech. And what do these liberals say? And sorry for any liberals in the audience. They say, well, commercial speech isn't protected as well by the Second Amendment. Well, that is not satisfying, okay? If you can't talk about the thing, you have regulated the thing, even if you say you didn't, okay? And what we were just talking about here about how you can't even talk about our machine on YouTube, and it's like we're just conditioned to this, and I'm not going to start spiraling off for here or anything. I'm just saying the ATF and the Supreme Court have endorsed this line of thinking for even defining what is or isn't a firearm. And so I wanted to credit your question with having a greater import.
Thank you for that. And effectively, it means that when people are supporting you, not only are they adding accessories to their own personal firearm, to an extent, this is a rejection or a statement against the ATF. What some of us, I personally, feel is an overreach of their realm of authority. Is that fair?
It's eminently fair.
Is the question saying this product is our own pushback?
Yeah, I mean, this is the pushback. Well, you could say pushback or our very astute attempt to follow these ever-shifting rules.
Yes, of course. The ATF wanted everything, and then when they got called to the mat and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals said, hey, you know what, actually we don't want everything, and then the Supreme Court bailed them out in a kind of emergency appeal, which I'll say Trump and his administration were in no hurry to delay. We will say that the Supreme Court's opinion is complacent, that the court itself is a complacent institution and did not give a serious opinion. You read that opinion, Vanderstock, that is a lazy opinion. And it is difficult to tell true-blooded Americans and American conservatives that their political institutions, especially the Supreme Court, are political hacks. But that is a hack decision. This is a real, concrete, substantial product, and someone will reckon with this product. If not this court, then another. This is real and can be sold and can be made. Supreme Court decisions are so much paper.
Ephemeral.
Well, here's the issue on that. Okay. Everybody thinks Supreme Court is supposed to be the final arbiter of the Constitution. And that's not true. Okay, the final arbiter is we the people. The Constitution was set forth by the people. We gave authority to the legislative, the executive, and the court, or the judicial branches. We can also withdraw that authority at any time. Okay, that is our domain. We are the final.
I stand by that 100%. And you know what? This product does not represent withdrawn authority or permission. This product represents our own conclusion because the Supreme Court declined to make one. We say this is constitutional, just like you're saying. We are the people. We sell this and people buy it. The market will judge this product as to whether or not it does meet these definitions. And the ATF, if it invites itself back to the conversation, I would like to see what the Trump administration has to say about it.
Well, as we were discussing yesterday with this administration, there's a lot of conversations we would like to rehash with this administration. As far as take them first and due process later. And I'm not a fan of silencers, stuff like that. there are a lot of unnecessary hurdles and roadblocks that have been put in the way of our own people that should never have been.
That we are conditioned to some degree. And I don't want to celebrate that. I want to challenge that. But for us, we think, Paul and Brady was an American success story.
Yes.
Okay, that company started in its garage and out of a back of a car, like a lot of companies in this industry do. It did well and was victimized because of how well it did.
Too good.
You can make a gun in this country. Nothing the Supreme Court said changed that. The Supreme Court effectively says, well, it can't be too easy. But I'm sorry, the Second Amendment doesn't say shall not be infringed unless it's too easy. And that's not just a quip. That's not just a line. This is not the domain for these politicians. And if they think this has disappeared because of their decision, we are here to say it has not.
It's and what was it? 7-2.
Cody would say it was really 8-1 if you dig into it.
Guys, if you read this opinion, and maybe you shouldn't read this opinion, but the media said, it's a 7-2 decision. Wow, okay, a rare example of like the liberals and conservatives coming together and unifying, against America's ghost gun problem. But if you read Alito, and Alito's our guy, don't get me wrong, but even Alito says, okay, I can understand what the majority does here. I wouldn't have done it this way. So his dissent is not really a dissent. Only Justice Thomas was with us on this question, which was a very easy question. Can the ATF redefine words defined in congressional statutes? We all know the answer to this. The ATF can't just wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, we think machine gun means this now. No, it is defined. I don't see why it had to take 4 years to figure that out and the Supreme Court to invent a new standard to rescue the ATF's creative writing process.
Well, it takes time because it's designed to.
Right.
Not for expediency, but to hurt people.
Process is the punishment.
And it must sound like I'm hurt. This is not me complaining. In fact, we're here to celebrate a brand new product.
Oh, no, you
right?
You look, that contempt of the court brought something new to the table. And you're saying, okay, now deal with it.
Yes.
You cannot keep moving the goalpost and expecting for somebody not to figure out a way how to enhance their performance.
Right. And that's the relief. The relief of that decision. Finally, some authority said in clear black letter words that you could read, fine, do it this way. Well, that's all we were waiting on, guys. Like Steven said, the process itself of getting there was the way to starve the industry, punish the participants, delay, bankrupt. Okay, finally, some words. And it almost didn't matter what those words were.
Almost just right when 7-2. I don't know. But listen, let's tell people where to get this stuff so they can give you guys some business so that you guys can not only stay in the fight, but win the fight.
That's what we're looking for. So G80.com, G80.com for the products you saw here on this live stream. And if you need a serialized version because you are deeper behind enemy lines than we are, you can check out G100.net.
And like I said, I looked at, I wish to God that we weren't subject to such totalitarian censorship. Otherwise, we'd be able to bring you and show you some of the finished models because they are, dude, that little, I can't even talk to you about it.
Yeah.
That thing is like so
it's the my candy.
Sexy.
We'll put pictures of it up on the website.
We're going to put that up because like I said, we were in the booth. We did a whole thing. We saw them over there. So at some point when this goes live and I get the other video up, I will post the link to that video in this description so that you guys can redirect it over to the booth video. But man, that's some sexy stuff you guys came up with.
Thank you, guys.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
All right,
You guys are gonna love it.
thank you so much, guys, for coming in. We appreciate it. Hey, listen, Marshall, Fast, do you guys have any last questions for these fine gentlemen before we cut them loose?
No, they got everything I was worried about. We covered the big one for me.
Ah, all right.
No, I don't have one.
Marshall, all right, cool. All right, guys, get the hell out of here. Take a donut on the way. There's drinks and sandwiches in the cooler if you want to help yourself. We try to take care of our guests here on the Weekly Roundtable.
Right.
I don't know if you like ham and salami or turkey, but if you want a sandwich, grab
Definitely do that.
I said when we left the hotel this morning, I got a 40-pound ice cooler bag on my shoulder. I am not dragging it back to the hotel full of food tonight. So somebody better eat this stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much.
That was fun. That's like therapy.
No. That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I hope people
all right.
are able to appreciate it, even for the people who aren't deep into firearms.
No. These guys that you just saw are the pioneers of the 80% movement. These are the guys who have been fighting the fight for us for the last 10 years. These guys have been doing it. You know, they have spooky gunning machines that make, you put metal in one end and a gun pops out the other end. These are the guys. These are the guys they've been trying to shut down, and these are the guys that have been leading the fight on behalf of us for the last dozen or so years. It's them doing it. So if our community can't support them, who the hell else can we support?
Exactly. Like I said earlier, the final arbiter of these decisions is we the people. Okay, and if we get support out there, and people going against decisions, the decision can't stand.
Big guy's trying to slide in.
Hey, Marshall, can you get that mic? I tried to adjust it online, but can you get that mic either closer or louder? Because you're...
And I'm trying to also not play out with the echo too.
Well, we got to... I don't know. That sounds a little better. I don't know if I can find an echo or not. But, all right. Not that long ago, we brought you guys something that I think is probably one of the absolute coolest safety devices on the planet, called the Boss Lock. Well, this right here, he's the guy who invented this crazy device over here. And unfortunately, because I've been having so much trouble with my L1F.US email, I can't log into the link that you sent me to show the video. So I'm going to hope that Vass or Marshall will be able to kind of do a little backup work while we're working. The Boss Lock is a device that locks to the Picatinny rail of your modern semi-automatic firearm. And there's a super duper hardened steel arm that locks in between the frame and the slide of your gun so that it stays completely out of battery until you, the owner of that firearm, hits that little biometric sensor on the side of the firearm. Within 1/3 of a second will retract the arm, putting your firearm into battery and allowing you to engage in the defense of your life, your home, your family, or your community. Myself, I did 1,000 cycles of the test unit that these guys sent me, and I had one failure in 1,000. And the only reason I think I had that one failure is because I had like so much grease on my finger that it might have been impossible for it to read. But I actually, at one point, I had cut myself pretty badly and my fingers were covered in blood. And I ran through the house looking for the Boss Lock. I said, let me see if it works. And I put my bloody fingerprint on this thing, and it worked. So Keith Bombaz here going to tell us some new and exciting innovations that they've come up with.
Thank you for having us, Frank. So we obviously created the first Boss Lock to address certain key issues that the firearms industry is facing, especially parents, and being able to have both secure storage and capabilities simultaneously, right? The existing methods of firearm safety of cable lock, trigger lock, lock boxes all require some element of compromise. And whether
a little closer to the mic. He's a big guy. He's like 7 foot tall, so he's like way above the...
So yeah, they require compromise, whether that is, compromising the capability to be able to have a firearm sort of stored anywhere in your home, right? Like some of our friends up in the Northeast or in California, right? There's, like I heard you on your previous podcasts, there's legislation that's gone through that has limited and hindered rights. Well, now we have a tool that can meet the compliance needs of being able to have firearms securely stored off of your body, right? But now it can be anywhere you want within your home. You no longer need to have it in your safe upstairs or on your person. It can be in your coffee table, it can be on top of your fridge. The same liberties and freedoms that we're allowed to have to protect ourselves in Florida, right? Everyone up north is able to have as well.
And like I said, I mean, the product itself is how many different iterations of this product have.
So, I mean, over the course of the last two and a half, almost 3 years, we've been consistently refining it. We're calling the unit that we have here is obviously going to be our Mark III B, right? Because we've got the secondary slide slots here. So you have the ability to be compatible on several hundred firearms, right? Which is what one of the first iterations, the iteration that you had tested, was a challenge because you could, if you didn't have a Glock 17 or a Glock 19, which is essentially what we had built it for to begin with, then you wouldn't be able to necessarily use our product. But now coming through here in this show, the Mark III B variant is basically every single firearm, about 85% of them for the major brands are compatible.
All right, and you guys have a compatibility list.
Correct.
A chart that's available. Yep. Because what you have to remember is the way this device is designed is that arm has got to sit in a certain place in order to keep the slide of your firearm locked back. Now, there are certain slides on certain firearms that sit higher or lower than others that lock back further forward or back than on some firearms. Some, if you have a long slide firearm with the pick rail is way out in front, that's going to be a completely different measurement of where the arm has to be, as opposed to somebody who's got a micro compact that might be looking. So trying to find something that fits all of those criteria is impossible. And then these guys have been out there, really trying to figure out, okay, what can we do to make it as universal as possible, but still cover all of the little blips around the market that are not in that universe.
And I think that's one of the key things is like we talk about is as members of the firearms community. And before we were in part of the firearms industry, almost our entire lives, we've been part of the firearms community, right? So building a tool that we actually would want to use for ourselves, right? This was a product that we first came up with after they were starting to have exposure to children in the home. When I was 24 years old, I had guns all over my home. This wasn't necessarily a tool that I was using. Right. Once my nephews were born and kids came into the home, this scenario changed. So, how that was sort of the problem that led to the development of the product. And, predominantly the firearms that we are built to be compatible with are your standard size, your full size, and your compacts. Right. So, even the P365, although some that's considered a larger subcompact, we are compatible with that one as well.
The one that you sent me, I had to put on, a Ross Martin.
Yeah.
I had to mount it on a Ross Martin. It was the one gun that came closest to what I had. But now if you look at, like the Glock 17, the RXM from Ruger is now the compatible gun. So you've got a lot of guns that are out there that follow the Glock pattern are going to all be able to use the same one, unless it's like some outcast, brand that's making like a custom version of that.
Exactly. And some of the ones like, if you look at like Daniel's new handgun, right? Daniel Defense new handgun that has a super low bore access with a super high frame. Yeah. Those elements, those are some of the newer designs that we aren't compatible with. But, when you're looking at the broad line strokes, of the major household names that you're going to be running into Glock, SIG, HK, S&W, Springfield, Shadow System, Ruger. I mean, I can keep going on, right? We're compatible with all of those. And I think really the key point to differentiate is the reason why it's not just a universal product, right? Across any firearm period, right? Like a cable lock. Cable lock works on your Glock. It works on any handgun. Technically, it could work on a pistol if you go through the barrel, right? It could work on, all your ARs and shotguns as well. But there's always a trade-off, right? Just like any tool that we have, right? Like you're not going to use your 9mm for long-range shooting, right? There's a trade-off there, right? The advantages that are provided to you when you have the right tool for the job sometimes require sacrifices in other areas, right? So for us, we wanted to sacrifice some of the ability of complete uniformity for every firearm out there to deliver greater capability, greater speed, and greater safety.
Well, how many different variants?
So
do you think it's
this
gonna have?
this model right here, the B variant, is covering over 110 different firearms. I'll share that with you once you get the email working up.
Yeah, once we get that up.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
the technical difficulties on the road are always the worst,
Yeah,
right?
this show has really been plagued. It's like I don't know who Murphy is, but his loss.
Oh,
Really
he's
sucks.
awful. He's the worst.
He's a bad dude. That guy.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
I was going to ask a question. Many people are concerned about gun safety, and I see that on your website as you were showing earlier. You're qualified in California.
correct.
Does
Both
your-
California. Sorry.
Okay, well, I was just going to say your gun safety regulation, not qualifications, capability. Does that also apply for states like New York, Illinois, some of the higher restricted states?
Yes. So from, California and Massachusetts are the two states that in order to sell a product and call it a firearm safety device or a firearm lock, right, there needs to pass certain stipulations, criteria, and certifications. There are right ways that some security systems in the industry go around that by calling, instead of saying a firearm safety device, they call it a retention system or a retention box, all those little wordplay, right? But ultimately, yes, in those two states we are certified, and yes, for New York, Illinois, where there is a higher element of gun incidences, right, and gun violence incidences, yes, this would still be applicable for those states.
Okay. Another question I had, and I'm sure there is some moms, dads, some family out there that are concerned, possibly anti-Second Amendment advocates are out there. And we'll say, is this effective enough to protect children?
So that is the entire purpose of what we built it for, was to protect children, right? It's to be able to prevent unauthorized use, right? So like right now, Frank would not be programmed to this device right here. So if he put his finger right here, all he's going to get is a red light, and he's continuing to go red, 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 red. So red. So as long as this is red, this arm is closed, nothing's going to happen, right? But I switch to this finger, and it pops open, that slide will come forward and chamber around. So the whole idea is to make sure that, it's fully ensuring that firearm is only going to be able to be operational for an authorized user.
Now,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, Dalen, I brought one of these into the store about a month and a half ago or so, and I showed you how it worked. Look, I don't care that he invented it. I don't care that he's a freaking monster standing next to you. What was your actual honest initial impression of the device?
Yeah, I was able to speak with him yesterday a little bit, so he I already gave a little bit of a rundown of it, but it's going to serve a purpose for those who probably don't know they need it yet, I would say, because it's something that's really new to market. It's
Technically not even on market. Technically our launch will be
right.
2026.
Not even, yeah. Coming soon.
Yeah.
So when it does, I think a lot of people are going to see it and be like, damn, I think that's going to work. That's going to, I don't really want to I want to have my firearm close, but not in other firearm retention devices, like some other people may or may not make, like a tall box in the closet that needs a key, or it might have biometrics that might not be the fastest, or it might lock out after X amount of times. Whereas even this, still just nothing, not locking out, no sounds, no vibrations. It's good. It's up until it's open, so it's not like something's weird or, like you bleed on it, or if there's a lot of oil, it's always reading. It's always going to read until it opens, to be able to give access to the firearm when needed. So, I personally like to keep my firearms within arm's reach. I'm in a bit of a different situation where there are no kids that come over to my household. I try to keep it that way. It's not the biggest place, not ideal for it anyways. So it's personally for me, it's not serving the purpose that I need it to, but I could absolutely see if there were children around, this is what I would probably recommend. So that way I can still have access to the firearm. I can boom, done, it's open, and have a chamber, have a round loaded, ready to go in case of that random window breaking in the middle of the night, or God forbid, whatever else may happen, versus, oh crap, let me run to the closet. Where's that key? Oh snap, or oh, it's hot, so I'm sweating at night. I try to open my closet or open the biometrics on whatever it may be. It's got a pretty good niche, and I think it's going to serve the purpose really well.
And you hit the nail on the head, right? Like, and you hit the nail right on the head with the statement, like, you don't have kids right now, right? Well, I'll flip that question right back to you. It's like, okay, now if you have in 2-3 years, you have kids.
Right.
Now all of a sudden the entire mindset changes.
Right.
Right. And the priority as a responsible gun owner means to make sure is we have to also not just make sure that we're able to protect those that we love, but that the tools that we use to protect those that we love don't become what causes harm. Right. And, there's a lot of statistics out there around, well, from all sides, right? Talking about the firearms violence and firearms deaths. Right. And I think there's several that are, if you take the gun crime, gun violence elements out of it, and you look at specifically one number, which is the suicide rates and number of kids between the age of 0 and 18, right? Before they turn 18, right? So under 18. Right? All of those deaths could be essentially preventable, right? Every single one of those suicide attempts or suicide deaths is able to be prevented. Okay. So that's really what we're trying to provide, is the ability to know and have with complete confidence that your firearm is only going to be used by yourself or those that you authorize.
I don't know if you tried, but one of the things that I tried with this thing, I've got like a dozen biometric safes, and I gave one to Rich not long ago, and I only give the ones away that I know have a really good track record. I have to use it at least 100 times to make sure it works, right? One I gave Rich is one of the better ones that I have. Gave one to my sister-in-law, but none of them still do as well as this device does. There's a lot of them, if you misread it a number of times, it'll lock you out for 15 seconds.
Yep.
Because the safe thinks the kid is trying to get into it or something, that not realizing that maybe you're misreading it because it's a panic situation, or maybe because your hand or your finger is not placed in the same orientation as it was when you programmed it.
So that's very important.
Right.
I want to say, yes.
And that is one of the things I tested with this. Now, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you. Can you close that down? Orient this to the camera the way you would orient it had it be mounted on your gun.
So if the firearm's pointing at the camera,
Right. So
it'd be like right here.
right. So. Well, now,
So I go to authorize that. Boom. It pops forward slide.
Now I want you to close that again. Okay. And I want you to invert it. It's the only biometric I've ever seen that reads the fingerprint 360 degree space. Every other one that I've seen only reads it in the directionality that it was originally recorded, and that's only within 15-degree tilt one way or another.
Yep.
Rich has been at the range with me, Dalen's been at the range with me, and they say I got to use my biometric to get in. How many times did I sit there pressing that button the last time that we went?
Once.
Right. Once with you, and I remember we were over there, it's like 7-8 times. I was sitting there pressing the button over and over again because it wasn't exactly where it was.
And
at point blank.
And that ties into something that is, a disservice that we've been, battling, and with bringing a product like this to market, is we didn't go cheap, we didn't skimp on quality on anything. Right, even to the arm itself, that's diamond-like carbon coating on it, right? So, and if you're familiar with, that's where you finish top of the line barrels are finished with that for a reason, right? Yeah. It's and that applies to the biometric as well. And unfortunately, a lot of the products that are on the market that are biometric are cheap overseas products, and you get what you pay for ultimately, right? You don't get the ability to read through water, read through grease, read through sunscreen oil, right? blood you had said in your example, right? You know, it doesn't have 360 degree capacity. It doesn't have the, you know, ability to not lock out and scan. So ours continuously scans, like you guys were talking about, every 50 milliseconds to take another shot. So that means every second there's 20 scans happening, right? So that's fast, right? You know, and that means that essentially we're ensuring that the product itself is the highest quality that you're going to get. And that includes ensuring that you're not being locked out, and that has a 360 degree scan. There's another element to it that's really unique, and this is the really fun part, is it actually has a progressive algorithm. So the more that you use it, the more it becomes to understand your fingerprint. What is that? How? Why? You're just like, okay, why does that matter? Well, your fingerprint changes over time, right? It evolves, right? Your skin changes, right? You get your hand wet. Your ridges can change the actual, you know, the pattern, right? Which can, for cheap biometric, it's going to deny you access. Ours recognizes that. So if you used it on, you know, Monday and you got a cut Tuesday, a little cut, it'll recognize that cut and it'll update itself. That's what I mean by the progressive algorithm. I'm not talking, there's not an AI robot mind in here. I'm not saying that, but I would say I just had a little geek moment there. But, you know, it's the fact that it continues updating itself to make sure that you are not going to be locked out when you need it the most.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Because we're going a little geek, which is
I love it. I love it.
And I have no problem with that. But for those who are out there, there's a mom out there right now who lives in the inner city, and there is, let's say, a Venezuelan gang, MS-13 infiltration in her neighborhood, and she's concerned about protecting herself and her family. But she's not tech. How difficult is this for someone with little to no knowledge? They're proficient, they're trained. But in terms of tech, in terms of maintenance, not the best. How hard is it to use these?
If anything, it's incredibly easy, right? It is as basic as you take it out of the box, you press you take it out of the box, you press the program button. So on the back here, there's two buttons, a program and a clear, which are not accessible when it's installed onto the firearm, right? Because the frame of the firearm is going to be sitting right here, right? So the frame of the firearm sits there. So these buttons that are right here are not accessible. So for me to go to program somebody, I just press that program button. See your finger? There you go. Now he's programmed. We install it onto the firearm, slide it in, slide the proprietary bolt mount right through, tighten that on, pull the slide back, lock that in place, and now touch. There you go. And and the whole point is, like, when I say this, that we intentionally went through and built a product that we wanted
Now do it upside down.
So we went and tried to be like, okay, what were all the areas that, you know, we would have a product that provided all the levels of safety for user authorization that was integrated into a firearm, but that we would also still want, you know, that didn't require you to change your preferred brand. It needed to be able to have a manual override. And the most important thing for me is, Liz, when I make the decision that I need my firearm and it's time to engage a threat, I don't want anything telling me, oh, you're authorized, oh, you're not. I want one authorization point, like a gateway. Once I'm through the gate, it's time to defend. It's time to use that firearm, right? And it's that simple. And that's what we've essentially created, is the dumbest version to be able to implement user authorization into a firearm.
So we no gunsmith required.
No gunsmith required.
Computer programmer required. Regular person can defend themselves rapidly and yet maintain safety that complies even in California, even in New York and Illinois. Correct.
And Massachusetts, I should add that too. We also recently got Massachusetts Attorney General recommended status through the state police in Massachusetts.
There you go. Okay. That clears it for me. I mean, that's a hurdle,
Yeah.
And we are seeing it live, which I love.
All right,
Live
there's-
demonstration. It is clearing that hurt. I think
Well,
that's important.
I'm going to help clear a couple other hurdles. I'm sure there's people that didn't answer the question yet. How long does the battery last?
We guarantee it for 90 days, but some of the batteries that we've had are going dependent. A battery's power level depends on use. Some of them, the ones like the one that sits on top of my fridge, we're over 6 months and it hasn't been charged. Right. So, the ones we're guaranteeing it for 90 days of being used every single day. The other element too is if you create, after 90 days, well, we don't want someone to completely forget about that firearm either. You know what I mean? There is certain elements of, I don't recommend people not cleaning their firearm only once a year. You know what I mean? But in truth, this device is meant to be able to, when you need it, it's going to work.
All right. Now, if the device should happen to die, what happens?
So there's also a built-in manual override. So the same way that you install it with the bolt driver, which essentially acts as once again, mom taught me, keep it simple, stupid, right? A bolt with a patented and proprietary bit head. So it essentially works as two different patterns that have to line up, both the inside and the outside. And this is real small. I don't know if you'll be able to describe that to them, but you see, it's two different patterns, one that's hollow in the middle, and then the outside exterior one as well.
If anybody who's ever been around machinery or something like that knows there's something called the security Torx bolt, and it's you'll see it looks like a star pattern, but it has a pin sticking out in the middle. That pin is a corresponding key that goes over it. If you've got wheel locks on your car, those silly wheel locks, so you put the key on and then you turn your jack. Similar to that idea. They're proprietary.
Concept is similar. How it works is the pattern itself is entirely different. So the interior bolt, like we were saying on the security Torx, is much thinner, right? So those bits won't. I just want to make sure it's clear for the audience that it's not your standard machining security Torx.
No. It's similar in appearance.
Yes,
the way they operate. But believe me, if you don't have this bit, you're not getting it off that gun. There's no way if somebody even would have come in and steal the gun from you, they would have to destroy an awful lot of stuff to try and have access to that gun. And it would not necessarily be easy to do because the unit itself is very, very durable. And the part of the Glock frame that it sits on, which is the part that you would have to cut out of the way, is now being protected by the unit that's protecting the whole gun. So it really is something cool. And I'm digging this thing. I'm hoping to see that these guys get lifted off the ground, get it into as many homes and hands as possible, because this thing, it will save lives. There's no two questions about it. It will save lives.
Thank you.
And I don't say that lightly, because I tested the ever-loving shit out of this thing, and I couldn't make it fail.
My favorite was when you took the Dremel to it.
Yeah, I took, push it up in front of the camera if you could. That arm right there is, I don't know, I'm not going to get into the metallurgy or the chemical analysis or anything else like that, but all I know is I put an angle grinding disc on the Dremel at 30,000 RPM, and I blew through 6 of them, and I didn't affect the finish on it. I did not affect the finish. And the only reason I didn't actually attack it too heavy with the angle grind, my full-size angle grinder, is because I would be holding it in one hand and have to angle grind it in the other, and I figured this might not be affected by the angle grinder blade, but my fingers will. So I opted not to, I wasn't going to, volunteer that much for science. But then again, how many people are going to break into your house, are going to have, or if your kids are going to try and get access to your gun, are going to have access to a blowtorch or an angle grinder? Because that's the only thing that's going to get this thing off the gun.
And I mean, the thing too is like, this, that's why when I said earlier, the diamond-like carbon coating on the exterior of the arm, right? And in addition to the 2 different tone hardenings on the S7 steel. But the importance of the diamond-like carbon was to resist hacksaws, right? Specifically the 32 TPI hacksaw, which is designed to cut metal, right? So to be able to resist that, you needed that extremely hard surface coat. And that's essentially why that's there. And that's why your angle grinder and most of those, household, even commercial products like a 32 TPI hacksaw is not going to be able to cut through that arm.
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, tell everybody where they can get this.
So right now it's only available on our website, www.bosslock.com. But hopefully in the post come 2026, we are going to be making some inroads into retail, and we'll be in a store near you.
And we know that we're not going to get into it. We're not going to talk about it. I happen to know some stuff behind the scenes that is going to be hopefully beneficial for you guys in the very near future with certain partnerships of organizations and other companies that you guys are going to get with. And it looks like a pretty decent, a pretty decent relationship could be forged between.
Absolutely. And the opportunities with some of the different partners are very optimistic, right? I mean, I think one thing we all agree on, and everyone in this, the firearms community, whether they have kids or not, is that the reason why we own firearms is to protect people, right? It's to protect life. And, nobody's out here saying that that they're okay with what they're seeing with suicide rates, with the death of children. It's just, how do we balance the protection of children with our protection of our own rights, right? And I think that's one of the key things that that we are actually doing is unique ways, not just to create a product that checks a box, but create a safety product that's so good that you actually want to use it. And some of the things that we're working on for coming down the road that actually make you want to implement safety even when you don't have to.
Well, that's something we had discussed a long while back when we first started talking about this, is that this solves a problem that the legislators have yet to try and address in a way where we are being proactive in finding a solution to something that not everybody recognizes as a potential problem yet. So they found a solution for something that is there, but no one really noticed yet. These guys found the solution. We said we're going to find a solution before they find some
legislation or mandate, right?
Yeah.
And the ability to ultimately secure a firearm. It's some states unfortunately do have to have make certain child accident prevention mandates, right? And I think we can all agree on, with everyone on this podcast, where we all stand in our minds and our thoughts on those, right? But the reality is, finding a way to provide parents with the tools, right? Whether you have kids or not, I think we all want to protect kids, right? And
it's something universal. We all want to be able to do something, but none of us like to be told to do it.
Correct.
Or be forced to do it by somebody else. They're not your kids. Let me take care of them the way I want to.
One question again. I know I'm asking you to mentor things for the common person, but I think it's important to cover them. I just thought of something, and I don't know if anyone tested it. Have you guys checked? Assuming I was eating spaghetti and some MST ones breaking my house because I'm dumb enough to live in New York City, which I do live in. Would your biometrics still be able to read print if I had spaghetti sauce, butter, sandwiches for the kids or something? Would it still be fingerprint?
So spaghetti sauce is specific, or we have not tested, right? Like Frank had said, I'll add it to the list. But like Frank had said, he tested it and he got it with blood on his. I got to read through his own blood, right? For us, we've tested it on sunscreen oil, lotion, moisturizer, dish soap. PAM spray, which is one of my favorite demos, where you cover the biometric sensor and be able to, you can't even see the square anymore. It's just a foam of bubbles and it reads right through. In fact, one of these days I'll jump on the show and I can demo that to you. Yeah. Everyone, when we're not here,
I've had WD-40 on my hands. I've had cleaning solution. I've had Hops number 9, brake cleaner. I've had just about everything on the only thing I had a problem with was like a thick grease, but that's because it's putting such a layer between your finger and the sensor. The sensor doesn't ever get to the finger.
And that's one of those key points of like what was designed for the purpose of what it is, right? It's not This is not meant to be equipped on with our SEAL Team 6 coming out of the, that's not the point.
Right.
The point is for home use, right? So what are the exposures you're going to have to that? And right, you said grease, but I'm sure if you wipe that grease off and put it back on, then she goes, you know, and it's,
you grab the gun, you go like this with your hand and you grab the gun.
Yeah.
The other thing that's pretty important to say, and I say this about anything that's biometric, make sure you program every single one of your fingers to that firearm, because you never know into what circumstances you're going to reach for that firearm, that you may have an incapacitated hand, you may have an injury, you may have a lot of blood on you, you may have something on you that prevents it from being read. So have all your fingerprints read gives you that many more opportunities to be able to access the firearm. And I know that has how many capabilities?
so you can program up to 50 sets of prints. So
Up to
50 users.
sets.
Well, then answer that question.
Yeah. So, and that's, and like, when I say this is when we truly say that we were, as part of members of the gun community who decided to go into the gun industry, we built a product that we actually wanted to use, right? Then that was sort of the catalyst to why we even went down this road, was because we needed a solution to meet the needs that we had arise, and nothing was there. And then how do you do it and build it so that it provides all the capabilities? And to be completely frank, what we wanted to provide was,
I'm
well, to, you know, and I know this is a term that's not sexy and a lot of it's had a lot of bad connotations, but is to provide all the benefits of a smart gun, which is user authorization, that confidence that only someone who's programmed to use the firearm can use it, but then not have any of the negative downsides, which come into, okay, you have to go to a specific platform, go away from the platform that you like, right? It locks you out, or it has the ability to, if it fails, that can't be manually removed. And then on top of that, it's also, you know, needs an authorization for every trigger pull, right? Or, you know, has an RFID, right? All of those things were elements that we didn't like. So how do we get that complete ability and capability of complete user authorization on the simplest platform possible?
You covered pretty much every question I have for the common user, the non-tech, and that's fantastic. I know Frank, the Research Foundation, and Range Report have done full testing on this, which is available online to check out. And they can see that as well. So it's great to see the live in-person demonstration and providing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I could do it on YouTube and people will say it's bullshit, but to have you sit there and look at it live happening, I just wish that we were able to bring an actual Glock into the studio here so we can show you how it works in action. But
we'll be shut down.
Yeah, we'll be shut down in a second. Marshall, is there anything else that you'd like to ask?
No, they covered it real well.
All right. Hey,
Awesome.
Carrie. No, it's a friend of mine walked by. She's supposed to be swinging back here on her way back, but I don't know what the hell she's doing. But you want to run up there and say, hey, Frank's waiting for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. I'll
Thank you
see
so
you
much for
later.
having me on.
Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
We got, we say we're supposed to be going from 3 to 5, but we didn't start till 3 to 6. Is it 3 to 6?
3 to 6.
3 to 6. It's 4:48. All right, we didn't start till 3:30 today because of technical problems. So if you guys want to banter about and have your little weekly roundtable for a few minutes, Marshall, catch up with us a little bit because I gotta go to the bathroom and then I gotta have a cigarette and I gotta go grab a hold of 3 or 4 more guests while we're here. So you guys chit chat for a while. We're gonna back out of the studio and we'll be back in a little bit.
Gotcha. And what people will notice, audio is going to improve. Second that Frank puts his mute on, and all of a sudden, bang!
Yeah,
It's better audio quality.
yeah.
Well, excuse the hell out of me.
It's the first thing, and we do remind everyone. One of the reasons why Michael and myself are a little bit more quiet than you might normally expect is because we do recognize the difficulties of being live and remote at the same time. We thank you for your patience with dealing with us as we deal with the technology. We're not as rich as the mainstream news media yet. You can, of course, always help us with that by joining the Liberty First Foundation, $15 a month. You could do that with super chats while we're on. But if you don't want to spend any money, that's okay. Like, share, subscribe. That helps us to get back to events like the NRA annual meeting next year and other events as well. That being said, Mike, you weren't here yesterday. I know you had to work, which is absolutely important because you keep the electricity on in New York State. What's going on, man? I haven't heard from you.
Things have been just absolutely crazy. There's been for those of you that don't know, I work on communication systems for public safety services, fire, EMS, law enforcement. And lately there has been some massive upgrades going on, some new technology changes that have been going on. And we have been just crazy busy implementing a lot of these changes. So basically, these are initiatives to help keep people safer. Whether you need a fire department or an ambulance, or God forbid, you need law enforcement. That's what basically I've been working on. And like I said, it's been crazy busy. Haven't been getting home. Normally I'm on here every Wednesday night with you guys. I haven't been getting home until after the show is over on Wednesday nights here lately. So that's how crazy it's been for us.
It can be. And for those who are not aware, every Wednesday at 8 p.m., we have a panel conversation, very much like this. We normally also have Dal Grimm and Jan Rains that will join us. And we have a panel discussion about not just the issue of the day, which may or may not be something that the mainstream media is telling you about, but also the constitutionality of many of the issues that are affecting our lives. Kind of like when we were talking just a little bit earlier about with G80 and the Supreme Court decision and the ATF, what I call overreach of the ATF in creating regulations that substitute or used as law to restrict people's Second Amendment rights. So we talk about those kinds of things every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We invite you to join us there. But today we are at the NRA. This is a live event, which I think is doing great. What do you think of the coverage? Did you see yesterday's coverage?
Actually, I didn't. Again, I've been crazy busy. Literally slept until noon today. So I haven't had a chance to catch up on anything because, like I said, it's been so crazy. I've been working most weekends as well. So it's for me to try to catch up on stuff. I am way out of the loop on a lot of things right now.
No, that happens to most people. I mean, most people are watching the Housewives of wherever the hell and the Celebrity of the Second. Or sports ball. And so they have the same kind of status at the moment.
And normally I'm not that way. Normally I keep myself quite informed about what's going on and what issues are out there. But unfortunately, time just has not been available for me to do so.
Yeah. You did hear about Colorado, right? The Colorado gun ban?
I did briefly, but I haven't had a chance to look into it at all.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a question while we have a moment. And I know I was speaking with Frank about this yesterday on the floor of the NRA annual meeting. And we know that there's a lot of conversation there at the NRA about Colorado's gun ban. It effectively bans pretty much every semi-automatic firearm out there, whether it's a mini Ruger 14, which most people don't even know what that is, or a AR-15 or an AK-47. So the spooky movie firearms, as well as the firearms that people are using to go hunting for recreation and for protecting their homes. Basically, if you have anything that has a detachable magazine, that's banned in Colorado, which is insane in my opinion. But I'd ask you this question, Mike. If the idea is we're exchanging rights for safety, are you aware of any time that a gun ban has prevented a criminal, a mass shooter, a school shooter, or the criminally insane from harming the public?
No, it's never happened. And here's the biggest reason why. You can ban every item out there and they will start using a rock. They will use themselves. Okay. You cannot ban absolutely everything, every item that could potentially cause harm.
They're trying in England.
Right
They're
now,
trying in England with knives, and they have very little relative firearms, but they have knife violence, and it skyrockets, and they can't get. Now they're trying to take away steak knives. So you're right. You take away one that's replaced.
That's typically what they find out. Okay. Notice how whenever the anti-gun community comes at it, they specifically target gun violence. Okay. They use that term consistently. Okay. They don't look at every other type of violence. And typically what ends up happening wherever these gun restrictions go into effect, gun violence may go down, which typically gun violence isn't a major source of violent crime anyway. But gun violence will go down. But every other type of violent crime increases.
Well, I've noticed looking at the FBI Crime in the USA report, the New York gun involved violence report. These are some of the reports that are publicly available to the public. The overall, while at any given moment, there may be a dip in any one particular year or one particular month, overall, the amount of firearms used in violent acts and crimes has not statistically changed. We're talking about 1 year it's up 5 or 10, down the next year 5 or 10 or 20.
Yeah, the trend stay steady.
Yeah, but it trends absolutely almost even. So it doesn't really affect gun violence, and that's because gangs don't care, because the criminals don't care, and the criminally insane, they don't know what's going on.
And Japan proved it not that long ago. You can make it so there is not a single gun in an area. Okay, remove absolutely every gun, every firearm out of an area, and somebody will figure out how to make one with common hardware parts.
You're talking about the assassination of the Japanese prime minister, which was recorded live, and a guy on his own, and we're not talking about 3D printing. He literally picked up a pipe, he picked up a couple of pieces of metal, and jury-rigged. You can't even call it it's not a gun. It was a concussive force device.
What used to be called a zip gun.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Okay, is basically a spring and a pipe.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, and you could put in some type of ammunition into it. And I'm not because ammunition's also banned in Japan. I'm not sure exactly what type of ammunition he had, but you can use something as simple as a fireworks to be your propellant for whatever type of projectile that you want. Okay, are we going to ban marbles now, or ball bearings, or whatever? And it's not that hard to find various types of accelerants that can be mixed together to create a fast explosive charge.
You can find that in, even the what was it, the Fanatics handbook from the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has it in their household chemicals, and that will be there. Now, this, in case people have forgotten about this, what we're talking about, this was from 2022. Prime Minister Abe was killed. This is not 3D printing. This isn't machined. This is someone who duct tape, couple of pieces of wood, couple of pieces of metal.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a 1x4 for the platform that the pipes are taped to.
Yeah, you can see. So saying that, oh my God, we're going to get rid of all the firearm, the manufacturers, the manufactured firearms, and you're going to be safe. No, you won't. That's not real. And these are some of the conversations, of course, happening at the NRA right now, happening at the annual meeting, which we now have access to due to the Voices of the NRA live stream, the NRA opening up its doors, allowing in social media like the Liberty First Foundation to be able to cover the event and some of the people there and some of the issues that are going on there. Let me see. Okay, so that's one of the things. Did you hear about Kathy Hochul in New York State, the governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul? She's now doing an ammunition checklist. She's getting the record of everybody. I know you're in New York State like I am. She now is recording every single person who buys ammo, and somehow, and I'm trying to figure it out, maybe you know, somehow by knowing who bought ammo, you're going to be safe. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
No. And Kathy Hochul is the hold my beer of Andrew Cuomo.
That's funny.
Okay, I mean, literally, she is literally trying to one up him, and she is consistently failing across the board. And every time that there's another one of her regulations or one of New York's regulations are struck down by the courts because of how egregious they are, she comes out with an even more egregious law. Okay, that one's already in the courts being challenged, and it will be overturned and it will be thrown out as just like the rest of the ones that she's done have been. So like I said, she is literally the hold my beer of Andrew Cuomo.
It's incredible to me. But the thing, the excuse that they use, and that's the part that really gets me, because if you think about it logically, no feelings, don't put in, without injecting feelings and the desire for safety above all. If you're not doing that, which emotionally is a manipulation, it's altering the way you're seeing reality. Once you step away from that, you have to ask, I can't explain this, the math, the equation that goes on in her mind that says, okay, I know who bought the ammo. That's going to stop someone, a criminal, someone who's a mad person, some psycho, from causing harm. MS-13 doesn't care. Venezuelan gangs, U.S., the Bloods and the Crips don't care. One, they're not registering. They'll steal someone's ammo. They'll use a fake name with a fake ID. Even if they have their actual name, they don't care. They don't care about going to jail. For the Venezuelan gangs, for the MS-13, it's an upgrade to go to American jails. They don't care. And the criminally insane, they don't even consider that. Most mass shooters want to die, so they don't care. How does it make someone safe? Go ahead.
Here's the thing. How is an ammo registry of any type going to help solve a crime? It's not like the ammo is actually traceable. It's traceable once it's fired out of a firearm, but the individual ammo isn't traceable. There is no means of determining that this person purchased this particular round of ammunition. Okay, so are we going to round up everybody that bought 5.56 ammunition the next time a 5.56 round is found at a violent crime use? Found used in a violent crime, or 9mm, or 22, or I mean, you can't even tell who the specific manufacturer is when the round is expended. Okay, you can't trace it back like that. So this ammunition registry is more tyranny placed upon the users just to make it harder for us to be able to defend ourselves. That's all it is.
No, I agree with you completely, because it, as I said, intellectually, it makes no sense. There is no way that this is reasonable, and it has no reasonable success. It never has, it never will, because it will
have no impact. Absolutely zero impact on anything other than people will buy less ammunition in the state of New York.
Yeah.
Okay. And that doesn't prevent them from going over to Vermont to buy ammunition, or to Pennsylvania, or Ohio, or any number of places.
Yeah, you can go to New Jersey, take a trip to Virginia, go over to Kentucky, Idaho, I mean Canada. Hell, you can go to Canada or Mexico.
Right.
So it's not realistic.
No, it's not. There is, I mean, she is so detached from reality. It's literally unconscionable.
Well, we're seeing a lot more of that. I think that we're seeing a lot more of these politicians completely detached from the reality. I saw recently, April 21st, Eric Swalwell on X, Twitter, left a post, which I did in one of my Sunday live streams. He's complaining about the price of eggs. The price of eggs have dropped by like 75%. We're back at the same level of
it's
cost
like 82%.
Yeah, and we're back to the same level as in July of 2022 under the Biden administration, when Bidenomics took it part and escalated the price. So we've actually gone back to the early stages of the Biden administration at levels that Democrats were perfectly fine with, but now it's under Trump, and he's like, "Oh, it's too high." The price has dropped. He's that disconnected. He doesn't know what's happening.
And thing is, he's not disconnected. He is literally trying to, a dust storm raises and he goes fire.
Right.
Okay. That's literally what it is. There's not even smoke there. Okay. A little bit of dust was stirred up and he is yelling fire. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's typical of pretty much all Democrats during both Trump administrations. Okay. They are so dead set to keep their current system in place because they know that they can actually use it to enrich themselves, that it is scaring them that it's going to go away.
I did want to mention for audience out there right now, I know people are popping in and out throughout our live coverage from the NRA annual meeting 2025. We are voices of the Second Amendment on the convention floor, providing live coverage. Our associate, Frank Johnson, also with the Liberty First Foundation, is there, and he's there live.
He's rounding up more guests.
They're rounding up the guests as we speak, but something that everyone can do. I know the audience is here. please don't forget, you can ask questions of all of our guests and or Frank and our team down at the NRA to ask them what's going on at the event. We know that there are more people there today than there were yesterday. You can ask about what are some of the topics that are being discussed. You can ask questions like I have, and as Michael has, about some of the people who are being interviewed about the products, the legislation, the questions you might have. We are always happy to hear your voice, and yes, to critique. Yes, we are aware of our technical limitations, but that's okay. We're working through that.
Okay,
that's life.
We are still here. We're still live. We're still doing this. Okay, and we try to adapt to these limitations as best we can.
That's what happens when you have a small company. You grow, you adapt. And we are still providing more coverage and better quality coverage than you're going to get from NBC, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, who might give you a 30-second summary in their, whether it's local news or national news. They might cover 30 seconds of the event tonight or tomorrow or Monday. They might
portray it as a negative.
Oh, absolutely. And they'll tell you that we're evil for having done this. They won't tell you that, as we just saw in the interview with Boss Locke, that this is about safety, to protect your children, to protect your loved ones, to make sure they're able to defend themselves. But at the same time, when they're not defending themselves, that no one is going to use that firearm to harm anyone, either by accident, kids playing with the firearm, someone mishandling it as they're cleaning. It's going to protect people. They don't want to tell you that in the mainstream media. That's not the approved message. But as you just saw live in our coverage, that's what's happening. That's the reality of what's being done. And we got to thank our good associate Frank for being there and taking care of that live while we couldn't be there for many reasons. So I'm going back and forth a little bit here, Mike. Obviously, I'm a lot more used to dealing with conventions.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone to many of them. CPAC, Freedom Fest, I've gone many years. So I'm kind of used to the pace and the insanity of it all. But what are you thinking of it?
Well, so far from what I've seen, it's looking like it is probably a very well set up and established show. But I know that they are undergoing some extreme transitions with the ousting of LaPierre recently. So they are struggling a little bit with dealing with that, but they are still doing a great event. And I think that ultimately, at the end of the day, this could actually help improve the NRA when everything's said and done.
I think this really humanizes because we are constantly told to demonize. The left loves to demonize the NRA and the Second Amendment and any firearm owner, even though many Democrats, in fact, one of the fastest growing groups since 2022, fastest group of people who are becoming new gun owners are Black women, Democrats. But yet they demonize their own to say that this is somehow evil to exercise our Second Amendment rights. No. And I think the NRA opening up their doors to allow more interaction, to let the public see and hear some of the conversations, some of the events, I think that really is a positive for firearm owners everywhere, whether you're in the NRA or not. It's a positive for everyone.
Well, ultimately, here's what we see a lot from the Democrat Party. Okay, I'm going to regulate you, but don't you dare regulate me.
Yeah, they say a lot of that. You know, they have a privilege. You don't get to have that privilege, even when it's your own right, which is what we're talking about here.
That's ultimately what it amounts to. Okay, we're seeing that a lot in our our elected officials. We're seeing that across the board with various party agendas and so forth. And it literally is amounting to, okay, it's okay if I do it, but you can't do it because you're you. Okay, and that is literally what we fought to get rid of when we were under the crown. Okay, that was a big part of the cause of the revolution, and that's what we need to start understanding. Okay, these people are in office because of us. We are the ones that are their bosses. They're supposed to be listening to us. They're not supposed to be doing whatever they feel like they can or want to. And ultimately, that is what Doge is getting to the bottom of in a lot of cases.
That's true. I know there's about an hour and 15 minutes late. I know Frank is working very hard. We've had 3 interviews today. We had about 3 or 4 interviews yesterday. For people who don't know, that's very difficult. I mean, everyone, when you're at a convention, everyone's being pulled everywhere. You know, there pick up meetings and people cancel and reschedule, and you got to go from one end of a location to another. And there's often there are main room conversations and side room presentations that are going on. So it's a madhouse. And it's a lot easier if you're just a guest walking through the halls and just picking and choosing what you want to go to, as opposed to news media and media in general that are there trying to cover the event. Well, it's more chaotic for us to try and do that.
And people people go months, I mean, upwards of a year, planning out exactly who they're going to talk to at these events because they try to maximize the impact that they have. I mean, these people are there oftentimes at a detriment to their business in hopes that it will help grow their business down the road. Okay. And as a result, they're setting up meetings that are going to push their business forward. And it's hard to find time to get everything in and everyone in. It's a whirlwind show. I mean, the crowds are huge. You've got, okay, and they need to be talking to the public. And every minute that they're sitting in an interview with us is less time that they get to speak to the public about their products and so forth.
The first year is always the worst with these things because if you've never covered a convention like a CPAC, a Freedom Fest, I don't know what Democrats, I assume, have something similar. I don't know what it is. I would assume the progressives do as well. I don't know what it is. I'd go if they ever would let me, but I've never, in 20 years, I've never known the name of it, and I've never been invited. What can you do? But the first year is always the hardest. So you got to figure out what's the layout, what's the feel of it. Plus, it's new for the NRA. They haven't been as open to the public before. So they're figuring out, how do we best invite the public in?
With what happened with LaPierre, there has been a lot more call for the NRA to be a lot more transparent. And this is one of the ways that they are trying to be more transparent, is by allowing the voices of the Second Amendment to happen. Okay. And I can only hope that they are going to end up instituting more events like this. Okay. Where we are going to have multiple voices out there spreading information about what the NRA is actually doing and I hope that they do become a lot more transparent.
Oh, I think
the
so.
NRA can be a very effective tool for people that are involved with the Second Amendment and with firearms and any type of shooting events and so forth.
Yeah. Now, mind you,
have to understand that that's what their purpose is. It's their purpose is to help their members and to help the community as a whole.
yeah, as I said before, I think humanizing it is one of the ways that they help, because it helps take away the stigma that the left has tried to place upon the Second Amendment to firearm owners and the NRA or any organization that is pro Second Amendment. Exercise your rights. So I think that's critical, and we hopefully will see other organizations that are similar to the NRA do this. By the way, we are not being sponsored by the NRA. We are not funded by the NRA. I wish that they were sponsoring us. I wish they were giving us a check. That would be fantastic. But they're not. So for those who might be questioning and saying, well, can you guys speak freely? Absolutely. They haven't given us a dime. They're not our sponsor. So we're just being honest in our feelings about everything and honest about the event as well.
And actually, I am going to be quite honest right now. Okay, I don't, with as many members as the NRA has and as much money as they bring in, I don't think the NRA is as effective at preventing anti-gun legislation as they should be and as they could be.
They used to be better.
Right.
But I think they fell behind in the media circus.
In recent years, they have gotten a lot worse than what they used to be. I'm hoping that this, with what's going on now, marks a change. Okay, so I mean, I'm going to be point blank with you. That's my opinion. Okay, others may share it, others may not. But that's my opinion. I don't think the NRA has been in past years as effective as they could have been.
Well, again, we may be seeing a turnaround of that. And I think this could be the first step in that. And I hope people, and that's why we look forward to hearing everyone's comment. Please do comment, folks. Even if you want to, whether you want to do a super chat or not, that's fine. Just comment. Let us know what you're thinking. And of course, the questions. I think we left a comment up earlier saying we look forward to hearing your questions when we have the various people who are being interviewed and Frank and the rest of the team there to ask them. It's not just for us, although it's mostly, to be fair, it's mostly for us to understand your questions and to make sure we're giving you the best experience we can.
That's the thing, is we are representing the people that are watching our shows. Okay, whether it be our weekly roundtable on Wednesday nights or whether it's for events like this. Okay, we are your representation. And in order for us to represent you, we need to know the information that you want to find out about, what you want to know.
Yeah. We can't ask the question like when I was talking to Boss Locke, that's BOS, and links will be in the description. You can see that for yourself, that you can go to their own website and learn more information for yourself. But when I was asking about, did they test it with spaghetti, which seems spaghetti sauce? And it sounds like they're going to try and do that test in the future. Why? Because I'm wondering, life happens. And when life happens, I know. But right now, we got our good friend Frank Johnson back on the floor of the NRA annual meeting. I know because I hear the echo, and I'm going to go and check out. Frank,
go
what's
scratch
going on?
yourself with the echo. I had to throw something down my throat to eat. I was starving over here. You don't know how many miles you can walk until you're doing one of these conventions.
No.
No, it's insane. You see, we got guys in the booth. They're here having a conversation behind us. We're going to throw Rick's mic up, so if you want to join in,
Comment.
Dalen's gonna eat a sandwich.
On camera. so we can see and hear.
Yeah. Things
Oh,
are
that's
starting.
always good.
Yeah, things are starting to wind down a little bit over here because they have a big concert going on across the hall at the Mercedes Arena, and people are starting to leave here and go there. And it's funny. You can tell who the people that are walking around here armed are, because there's no firearms allowed inside the Mercedes Arena. So all the unarmed people went over there, and the rest of us are still sitting here. And for tonight's show is the Freedom Experience. It's the NRA Big Country with Big and Rich. April 26th, 25th, at 7 p.m. at the Sidney Marquis Auditorium. This event is a general. It's a general admission. There's no what do you call it there? There's no seating arrangements, and we happen to have 3 tickets. So if you can get down here to the NRA Convention Center before we close up at 6 p.m. tonight, you want to go see Big and Rich for the NRA Country Freedom Experience.
And for the last 2 days, it's been Big and Rich. Big and Rich.
Yeah, Big and Rich.
Let me ask you. In yesterday we had asked about what was the mood and conversation among the people attending the event. Let me ask that same question today. First question.
The same response. You might speak. It was funny. Rich and I were just coming back from being outside a few minutes ago, and we said the same thing. We've run into a lot of people from the NRA. People are coming up to us, handing us business cards, want to introduce themselves to us. They're thanking us for being a part of the radio experience here, and they handing us their NRA business cards, and we're just
free tickets to concerts
and tickets to concerts. Hey, thank you. Here's some tickets to the concert. Come. I'm like, okay, I'm not a seat filler. That's fine. I'm not a country music listener. Marshall, you'd probably enjoy this, what you're up here. But the consensus is, and like Rich said, there's a lot of dinosaurs in the NRA right now. And this is, I guess, since they've had some new leadership, this is one of the first times they're really trying to bringing new blood into the NRA. There's a lot of fuddery, so to speak.
Yes.
That's one of the things we were discussing while you were away.
Literally. That was one of the questions we were targeting is the growth of the NRA public face.
Well, look, I'm looking right now. I have a couple walking by, probably mid-20s, very, very attractive couple, mid-20s, bag full of swag, wearing their Second Amendment gear. I see the future of the Second Amendment community. I see families walking around over here, pushing babies in strollers. They're here at the event. I see a lot of young people. I see a lot of enthusiastic people. I see a lot of the people from social media circles are youthful. And I see a bunch of old bastards like me and, a bunch of other people.
And older.
And older.
Way older. Yeah. Slowing everything down. He's trying to get from here to there.
If that's actually possible. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good mix right now of ages. And I think if you're looking at the general crowd, it's a younger crowd than some NRA experiences we've been to in the past. So maybe that's, even the little scooters look like some people are running around look like hot rods.
They're a little bit more modern and faster.
Yeah, modern, faster scooters. Just one just drove by, looked like a chopper. You got a front wheel, Springer front end on it.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Looking at Radio World, which is the NRA incorporate social media into their event, being more like CPAC, best, and all the rest. What are you seeing amongst your peers there? Is there a specific topic everyone's talking about? Is there something you're trying to target or share with the public?
Not really. The views,
You want to bring your volume up a little bit.
The views of everybody that we're seeing here, diversified. The things that people are interested in, diversified. There's nothing that's a unifying factor that I can really, determine. There's nothing that's, stand out. There's nothing that's really, grab you by the neck and shake you and say, hey, look at this. Nothing.
Okay. Then I got a question.
But that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, though, because a lot of times when we've had in the past where there's been that one topic that people were talking about, it was usually something negative. So the fact that there's nothing right now overall negative for people to really grasp onto, people I think, are able to go about their normal routine and express themselves and the interests that they would normally have without having the sword of Damocles over their head.
That's a good point. Really good. There is a question that came from OG Redbeard, who's been watching our country. As we're about to get through the 100 live viewer mark, and we appreciate that for our audience. But OG Redbeard said they have a concern about the left, that the left is infiltrating the NRA and therefore affecting our ability to protect, or rather the NRA's ability to protect the Second Amendment. What do you have you seen that on the floor there, or throughout the event?
No, I have not seen. Listen, anybody that I know who would come here from the left would be somebody who would be triggered, use their word, would probably within the first 5 minutes and have some sort of explosive emotional event that required them to be escorted from the facility. I don't think any of them are either calm enough or that good of an actor that they could walk around this facility with people walking around with guns on their hips, drooling over the biggest, latest, and greatest and stuff like that, and not flip out. If David Hogg walked in here, it would be he would literally just probably melt into a puddle of shit because he would resort back to his primordial state. There's no way they could survive walking around in here. Just the number of American flags that you see here would be enough to. It's like, hanging garlic on your front door to keep the vampires out. They're not coming in.
National anthem first thing in the morning.
Yeah, national anthem first thing. I mean, and the thing is, you have a couple of people. Like, here's a kid who's walking by right now. Kind of looks like a little bit of a hippie. He's got his sandals on. He's got his long curly hair. He's got his camouflage shorts on, and some wacky looking T-shirt.
Okay.
But he's one of the Second Amendment hippies.
Yes.
He probably lives on a homestead somewhere, and this is the best sort of pile of clothes that he could find, to come here to the event. Because the Second Amendment is not a one size fits all demographic.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. That I noticed, very diverse. The group of people of all colors and Spanish, blacks, whites, mixed together. Foreigners. I've seen a bunch of foreigners here too.
Yeah.
Speaking different languages. Everybody's just kind of enjoying the show, checking out all the.
Everybody's playing with the toys, looking at the guns, doing what they're doing.
No.
I haven't seen a single confrontation of any kind.
No.
Wait a minute, Frank.
Yes.
Frank. There's firearms there.
I know.
There's confrontation, and people have all those guns in one place.
Not one single firearm has got up and shot at anybody.
Right.
I am amazed at how well trained these guns all are.
And everybody's polite. Everybody's like, if you're walking when there's a lot of people, they all kind of move out of the way, or if they bump into you to say, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's just been great.
I was walking by the SAR booth earlier today, and an elderly woman tripped on a piece of unsecured carpet, and she took a good fall. It was, oh my God, I've fallen and I can't get up kind of moment. It wasn't that much. She tucked and rolled. Okay, she tucked and rolled. She covered herself pretty good when she went down. No sustained injury. 20 friggin' people swarmed around her like a cocoon to make sure that she was okay. It was everybody just ran to help her. Nobody took out their phone and said, "Ha ha, look at the old lady who fell down." No, everybody ran over. Missed opportunity, I think. But everybody ran over to help her, to get back on her feet. And then within like a minute, there was a gurney brought in with 2 paramedics, picked her up, put her on the gurney, checking her blood, blood pressure, checking her eyes and make sure she didn't get concussed in the fall. And I said to myself, they're that prepared to handle somebody who fell down. This is not, I don't know, it's not conducive of the kind of environment where troublemakers are going to find themselves. Right. They're prepared here. Things are prepared. And the thing is, the community is helpful.
Right.
As soon as somebody need help, everybody was there right around them.
Yeah, and people holding the door open for you, or if they see some kind of challenge, they try to just step in, try to help out. Even with vendors, I mean, it's been awesome.
You got to see leaving here, getting on the escalators. There's 3 floors of escalators you have to get through to get out of this building, right?
Okay.
There's 5,000 people online at the escalator, not a single person pushing.
Right.
Yeah.
They're alternating traffic to get on the escalators. Right. To make the flow as quickly and done and even as possible. It's crazy how well behaved the masses can be when you have people who are civically minded.
And when you take into account, they're all armed. And according to what you've been told for decades, from the left, the approved mainstream media, this can't exist. And I think that's a great thing about the NRA doing the voices of the Second Amendment. They're opening up and showing people that just because there's a bunch of people with firearms, that's not a danger. Americans owning firearms is not dangerous inherently to anyone.
No, it's the only person it's dangerous to is the person who tries to take them from us.
Yeah.
That's where it is. But, like OG Redbeard is saying, NRA is a money grab. And listen, for what the NRA has to do, the bottom line is they need money to do it. Every organization does. We are not immune to it. Everything that we do costs money. And because we've got certain paperwork that need to be filed, certain things we have to do, in a lot of cases, the things that cost you money are things that cost us more money to do because we have to do it in a different capacity. So, the NRA has to seek out money. They have to take money in. It's how they operate. So does every other civil rights organization on the place of the earth. Rainbow Push operates on a $12 million a year budget or something from what I now, as far as saying they're infiltrated by the left, I personally know at least 20 members on the board of directors of the NRA. These are not leftists, at least the ones I know. They're not. There may be plenty of other leftists that are found their way in and whatever, but none to my knowledge that I've seen that could say, okay, you might have some that don't like a certain kind of gun, but that's because of how they were brought up. But I don't hear anybody on the NRA board, at least the people I know, saying they're going to ban something, or prevent people from owning something. I haven't seen that. Haven't heard that.
Yeah. That's important to mention. A lot of people don't talk about these things. And they should.
There's more people walking by, and it's funny. People are not used to what they're seeing here. You're seeing the 3 of us sitting at this table, backdrop, and all the rest of that stuff. People are not used to seeing this happen at the NRA. Everybody who walks by all of the booths over here with a show going on, they're stopping and they're watching. And what the hell is going on here? What's going on? And when you go outside the booth and you tell them, we're doing live podcasts from the NRA, we're trying to reach people and everything, and everybody here is, man, that's great, it's fantastic. NRA is doing outreach. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do things different. So, look, there's new leadership at the NRA. There's a new mission statement with the NRA. There's a lot of it getting back to the basics. Let's not keep condemning them with the same condemnation that we did 2 or 3 years ago, when the people who were here 2 or 3 years ago are not here now.
Well, and like I brought up earlier, okay, I think the NRA is trying to be a lot more transparent than they have been in the past. And that can only be a good thing.
Well, yeah, no doubt. Jeffrey Johnston gave us the tickets to the concert.
Cool.
What a nice guy.
Not a sponsorship, but this is something you see happen at conventions very often, or people are in the media.
Well, we're working on other things regarding that first end.
Well, we got
trying very hard.
Well, we got to make money too.
Yeah, well, we just found out. I'm not going to name names right now. We'll see if I can't get them on the show tomorrow, because I just spoke to them. A company that I have been visiting with some regularity, and we've all been kind of looking at their product and stuff like that over the last couple of years on the show. Just signed a very, very huge deal today. Something that's it's going to be life-changing for them. And, I like to think that in some way we were a part of it, since we were the first people that kind of helped launch their product for them originally. So
Sweet.
Tomorrow we will get some firsthand information about that. So when I say I'm working on it, I'm working on it.
All right.
I'm always working on something to try and move the ball forward. Always trying to move in some capacity. Might not be very far, but still, inch by inch, we'll get there.
No, we have absolute faith in your abilities, Frank. That's why we sit down. That's why you're down there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm here because I'm the closest one.
He's being modest.
Yeah, he is.
And because I have the microphones.
He's being way too modest, folks.
No, I really would have. Like, this is, like I said, this was the first year. It's a pilot program for what they're doing. It's going to get bigger. It's going to expand in the future. I've already been made aware that we've got a return invite for next year, to come down and do what we need to do. And we will have our own booth. We won't be sharing a booth. None of us will. Now that they've seen, okay, what works, what doesn't, so we're working through that. So we will have one booth that we set up at the beginning of the show, leave it alone until we take the thing down. So it'll be, up for 3 or 4 days. I'm sure there's going to be means of helping with other things. Something just flew across
Too much momentum in the trash transfer.
It's a wire. He's
looking
behind you.
I got this guy over here. He's throwing garbage at me from behind. Do a little dance. Go ahead. And you want to know what's messed up? I just gave the man a turkey sandwich like 15 minutes ago.
He wants a second one.
There are no second ones. I told the guys, I says, I am not bringing back an empty friggin' cooler to the hotel room tonight. A full cooler. I said, eat these sandwiches. Get rid of them. We're done. I'm not carrying 30 pounds of friggin' ice back to the hotel.
Yeah. One of the challenges. Go ahead.
Yeah, but like I said, by next year, they'll have a lot more of the kinks knocked out of this thing. It'll go a lot smoother. I mean, a lot of the difficulties I had today were probably self-imposed, and I'm not understanding why my technologically advanced cameras don't want to cooperate. But, there's only so much I can do.
No, we make the best of it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's having the couple.
I have a. See, now it timed out. Now I don't understand why it did that.
You can sense the frustration.
Yeah. You have no idea how many things almost went flying across this auditorium today. None. No idea. Like, son of a God. That's why I say if I can't fix it with a hammer, I usually don't own it. Well, this was part of the problem that we had today. I have 3 battery packs mysteriously disappeared. My cameras that are supposed to be able to go from battery power to, go from AC to DC and vice versa. One of them decided to stop working, and it's a brand new camera. You know, it's new enough to be new to me, but not new enough to still have a warranty.
Yeah.
Well,
What's that?
The show will be closing in 15 minutes. Everybody, your passes are available or good for the whole weekend.
as the group Europe said, this is the final countdown.
Right.
For the floor. Okay.
For the floor, yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on here? Is this battery dead or something?
So, like channels.
During this time, guys, maybe Rachel mentioned, Dallin, have you heard about, are they doing, what are things on like the main floor of the event or on the side, and some of the types of conversations or events they're doing?
Events, I'm not too terribly sure. I know there's like when you come down, there's like the press office that we go to get the badges. There's the exhibitor stuff by the entrance. I know there's a private function room that had some stuff going on. I've seen like gift bags or something like that. So I don't know if a lot of suits. So I think that's probably something like official kind of going on for board members to kind of talk about some stuff or something like that. Because I know. When,
some private events.
Yeah, some private events that occasionally you would hear over the intercom, like, oh, the new head or some board members talking about it, which sounds like it's probably coming from that room. I don't know about you, Rich. I haven't seen any other kind of like events other than that.
No, that's it. That's basically it. And then once in a while, we do have some of the sound being piped into the arena where you kind of hear some goings-ons. Or
wasn't Trump supposed to be speaking today or something?
So pumped. I don't know. He might have already been here and I don't even know, but it might have been why we had a lull in the crowd. But then again, there are so many people that are not going to leave the arena.
Right.
That are going to say, heard it, and they're going to say, that's it, not going back. But I know that if you look at the NRA schedule, they have the leadership conferences. There are a lot of little rooms around the sides where people will go and give personal presentations and speeches and stuff like that. There are a lot of different, like the Women in Gun Rights, the DC Project, stuff like that. They have various groups that, work with the NRA.
Yeah, some type of video trainings also. I noticed in a couple of rooms with different training, concealed carry training and all that stuff, but just like more like a video kind of thing, a presentation.
Yeah.
As opposed to a training, but more of a presentation.
Yeah, there's a lot of that all over the place. For anybody to think that they're going to be able to attend everything that this place is offering over the weekend, you can't.
Right, because that's also all the way on the other side.
Yeah.
So when you kind of walk in, either you come to the left where we are, and that's where this is. If you go to the right, that's where all these other separate rooms are with different presentations going on and everything. I even saw one of the presentations was about guns from World War II or something.
The gun collectors. You guys remember last year when I came down and I met with the guys who had the guns from Monte Cassino, the Battle of Monte Cassino, and I told you about the guys who were the Polish civilians who went in there and fought, and they collected all the guns and stuff like that. Those guys here. Tomorrow I'm actually going to do a special little interview. I'm going to run over there and get a hold of the guy before he leaves. I have there's a Iwo Jima survivor here that is from North Carolina, and he's here with the North Carolina Gun Rights Association. He was at the NRA last year, but I went over to interview him, and he wasn't feeling well, so he had left that day. But he's here for this event. I already spoke to him today, and he had his hands full doing some other things. I told him, I says, if you're up to it, tomorrow I'd like to come by and give a little interview with you. And he said, absolutely. And if I can't reach him here, I have his information. I can reach him when I get back home. But I would like to see him here in front of the display they have, because they've got a whole bunch of World War II firearms there.
Well, hopefully we will be able to see that tomorrow. That'll be a highlight.
Yeah, if you are an antique pistol and rifle aficionado, you need to come to one of the NRA meetings, because there is a section over there.
For collectors.
It's just the Collectors Association, this huge area full of gun collections, and you'll see things you will not see outside of the Smithsonian.
Let me ask. I see that the rare, very little coverage is being put onto the NRA annual meeting of 2025. So it's very much reliant on guys like you, Frank, being right down there, all of you guys, Dallin and Rick, being right there, live and covering it. But I did see that the Daily Mirror, their U.S. branch, is talking about there's a bunch of kids and they have rifles and golden Trump guns. I don't know that's about. But let me ask. Have you noticed a lot of children around?
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, there's been some lot of with with their parents. There seem to be some more
All ages,
handful and
really.
adolescent. Nothing too crazy. I would say.
Wait till you see what I'm bringing tomorrow. To be somebody who's going to sit in tomorrow for an interview. And you wait to see what. That's if you're able to do it later when they come on, you'll pull up the gun sight from Mountain Billy Goat Laboratories.
Mountain Billy Goat Laboratories.
Yep, Mountain Billy Gun Lab, and you'll understand about that. But we're going to discuss that tomorrow. But yeah, there are plenty of kids here, and you want to know what every single one of those kids is doing? Exhibiting expert hand and trigger control. The muzzles are pointed down. The finger is off the trigger. They're looking through the sights and pointing it in the safest direction possible. They're not flagging anybody. They're not handling firearms in an irresponsible manner. They're treating adults with respect. They're saying yes, no, please, may, thank you. That's what the kids who are here are doing. They're not running through the halls screaming like a bunch of lunatics.
No.
They're acting reserved, they're composed, they're well behaved, and they're respectful. And I hate kids.
Yes.
And I can't hate these ones.
For the last 2 days, I only saw one group that was like teenagers, probably like 14, 15. And they were acting a little stupid, a little silly, but that was the one encounter. That was it. 4 or 5 of them.
Wearing red shirts?
Yeah, like there was, like a group of probably like 4 or 5 of them, and he's like pulling every freaking trigger and just kind of like going crazy on all the revolvers. But that was it. That was the one time. All the other times it's just been like great. The kids are either the little kids and they're kind of like in their strollers or whatever. But then older kids also, like Frank said, I see some younger kids like when they like actually handling a firearm and in like the proper way. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. Frank, I did find Mountain Billy Gun Lab. I want to say Billy Goat.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because the gun is called the Goat 15.
Right. And I have it up on screen right now. I found it, people. And it's kind of interesting because most of the products I've been seeing on their website that are showing it looks to be a very young woman, a more slender woman, which kind of goes in the face of people like Maxine Waters, Representative Sheila Jackson.
Oh, you mean somebody who's fit, active, Second Amendment proponent, who's outside enjoying the weather and firing a firearm.
Yeah.
And wearing protective gear and eyeglasses. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not overly muscular. It's not like these things, as we have been told, weigh
as much as 10 boxes you might be moving.
Yes.
What the hell? What does that even? She's dead now. I can't even ask her what the hell that means.
People ask her all the time. She didn't
as much as 10 boxes that you. Well, what kind of boxes, Matt? Are we looking at? Matchbox? I can move 10 matchboxes. And the box, the crate that my engine came in. I know I can't lift 10 of them. Well, I don't understand. I don't know. It's like she's as dumb as the fully semi-automatic guy.
That was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was semi-automatic. Now I'm going to show you This was fully wow, fully semi-automatic.
Never go fully semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad, but that Goat 15 is going to be pretty cool to talk about. I'm excited to see who we can get on. From what you can see from the picture, I forget what is it. It's half.
It's a 1/2 scale AR-15
scale
that has been specifically designed to be, quote unquote, the safest rifle on the planet, or thereof. It cannot be operated simply or easily by a child. It has to be manipulated by an adult because it's going to take a certain amount of dexteral sensing and hand manipulation in order to get the firearm to operate correctly, and it's usually out of depth of children. So this is a firearm that is going to be excellent for training purposes, for learning, discipline, and it's good for tactical reasons, good for a lot of different reasons. And kids, if you have parents that want their children to learn about firearm safety, this is a gun that is designed that it cannot be operated unsafely. So this is a gun that's automatically going to teach those things, right from the bat. And we're going to be getting one of them very soon, as confirmed today on the channel.
Nice.
We're going to be getting one of them today. It's very soon, because I want to try and institute a program locally and get it into effect, and this is the perfect firearm to help me usher in that kind of a program. And if it's something that we can usher in, we'll see about getting it ushered into other places, because they're also working on, as ridiculous as it sounds, compliant versions of that rifle.
How much more compliant can it get?
Paddle grip,
Right.
no threaded barrel, top handle,
non-detachable magazine.
Cosmetics. For the most part.
Well, right now the gun comes as a one-shot rifle.
1 in 5.
1 in 10.
1 in 10.
Yeah,
right.
they have a
It's
10.
It's magazine fed with a 1-shot or the 10 rounder, but that's ridiculous. I don't see how it could be any more compliant, because I'd have to look up
New York
California's
State
code.
Yeah.
Well,
You can't have a pistol grip.
right, because I know New York, because having sold to a couple of New Yorkers before, the only gun that that the store is allowed to sell to New Yorkers is
No, you can say Bass Pro
Bass
Shop.
Pro, okay, Bass Pro Shops is a 1022 that is non-threaded. It's the only 10 round it's the only thing we can sell. So that's still lame.
We might be able to get away with like a Model 60 or something like that, a tube fed.
Yeah, you cannot have a hand grip or a pistol grip. Cannot have a foregrip. Cannot have thread barrel. Cannot have detachable magazine.
No adjustable stock, I believe.
It has
Right, no adjustable stock.
And if you kind of want, I believe you can override that by having a non-detachable magazine.
Right.
And then you can
and the
pistol
bullet
grip on it.
button. But they want you to be would render the gun to what they call featureless.
Right. Which is
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
And speaking about ridiculous, we're signing out of here.
Oh, I was about to say.
Everybody's starting to clear out, and we have eaten the remaining sandwiches that were in the cooler bag, so I don't have to carry 36 pounds back to the car. So tonight we're actually leaving everything set up exactly the way it is, and we're just hitting the power switch, shutting it down. So we don't have to break ourselves in half trying to get this thing loaded up tomorrow morning. So, listen, guys, thank you so much for joining in and helping us out from New York today. Tomorrow, will be 10 a.m. We'll be on the air. 10 a.m. until probably 12:30.
Okay.
So,
Sounds great.
Tomorrow will be the last day of the NRA, and I'm Frank.
This is Dalen.
And this is Rich.
And that's Vass, and that's Marshall. And on behalf of all of us guys, you guys be safe and shoot straight. We'll catch you next time.
See you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.